for our tens of listeners, why don't you introduce yourself?
Nice. Um, I'm Taylor Massey. I'm the principal clarinetist of the Augusta Symphony, and I play second clarinet in the Savannah Philharmonic, and I also teach clarinet at Western Carolina University and Brevard College. And in my spare time, I repair oboes and clarinets in Hendersonville, North Carolina at the Reed
Oh,
House. That's like a new thing that I added to my bag of
I
tricks about 3 years ago.
was gonna say I don't remember you doing that before.
No, that's new. I've always been kind of interested in like kind of the repair side of things
Mhm,
that
mhm.
but I never had the opportunity, and it's really hard to learn this trade. I don't know if you're it's not something you just learn. So I actually, when I was finishing my doctorate, um, I one of my colleagues who is he's one of the guys, one of the oboe guys in North America, Brian Seaton. We had been working together and performing together for about 10, 12 years. He was looking to hire, and I was looking to move out of New York. And
I
I,
would
I
too.
yeah, so I mean, at the time, I was like, well, this is like a no-brainer. I can move to North Carolina and just right. I'm actually originally from Greenville, South Carolina, so I moved up the road to Hendersonville.
Is
And
that sorry? I'm digging back here. Did we meet from that, or
we we met at what is the Oklahoma City Clarinet audition.
yeah? Okay, all right. Because
That's where we met. Yeah.
I remember. I just you're one of my colleagues who I know you, but now it's
Mhm.
just lost to time. What, when, and what context?
I think we met like at an audition, and I'm pretty sure it was Oklahoma City,
Okay,
with the billion other people that were at that audition. But I think we were actually right in the same similar group.
okay.
So I was thinking about that too, and I was like, I don't. I'm trying to remember exactly. Did you take the Greenville Symphony audition too at some point?
I I don't think I had, but I did. I did my undergrad
Right.
in there.
I remember you did it at Bob Jones, right? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And we
That's.
had a conversation about this. I remember.
I'm sure we did because it's still burned into my memory
Well,
for.
I mean, I'm originally from Greenville, so I grew up familiar with the university,
Yeah,
and
being around it.
yeah, and actually I just relocated back to Greenville in July, so
I,
I'm kind of
I hear
living.
it.
I've been away for 20 years.
Yeah, I hear it's really kind of exploded and like grown quite a bit, uh, at least since I've been there last. Um,
Yeah,
but that's good. Um, so you were saying getting into tech stuff, instrument tech.
yeah.
Um,
It's how music is. It's like you have to kind of. You're always looking for like. I mean, I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like I'm always looking for like new opportunities
mhm.
and new things to kind of do, and that was a way to sort of get because I when I was living in New York City earning a doctorate at Stony Brook, and I had been living in Augusta performing with the orchestra and just kind of freelancing around in the region. I taught at UGA for a while,
Okay.
and then I was looking for kind of a way to get back. I didn't want to, you know how it is when you have performing, you don't give it up. So I never like I wanted to be within striking distance of some of the gigs that I had sort of accumulated.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I've managed to, while I was doing my doctorate, I managed to kind of keep toes indoors and keep, position, sort of maintain positions. Um, so it was an opportunity to kind of move back and be closer to those things and learn a new skill. And now it's not like once you learn a skill, you can't really get rid of it. So
Yeah.
I've just sort of been doing that for 3 years. It's not necessarily, I've learned something really about working on instruments. It's not as musical as you might think. You would think it's like, but it's um,
Yeah.
a lot of mechanics. It's a lot of, your mind has to think in a different way. It's,
Right.
especially working on oboes, they're very mechanical, and the clarinets are really as intricate and problematic. So But yeah, it's been an interesting few years doing that.
Yeah. And I've been alongside a lot of friends who've gone into uh, or started looking into tech work like that. Um, One of my previous interviews, Harry, he opened up so like kind of northern Illinois, a shop around northern Illinois, but um, after his I guess military performing career, he got into that. Um, and
Hmm.
but and I was good friends with Wojtek, is from the Opperman Clarinet
Yep.
Studio,
Hmm.
and just watching him because he started studying tech stuff even before he met Cal, and
Hmm.
then certainly his time with Cal like started learning all sorts of stuff from
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and just it was so it seemed so overwhelming to me, like all the little details that could make or break an adjustment, and like the little just like I've seen him do a single stroke with sandpaper inside a bore, and just like the whole sound changed, like noticeably changed, and like I'm I appreciate it, but it's still in that like kind of magical stage for me. Like I don't really understand everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I actually the beauty of it is like I think it's like reed adjustment. You know, when you adjust your reeds, you don't really have to. You have to know like what effect. You don't really have to know why it works,
yeah, it just needs to
like
work.
and that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's what the guy that I've been working for. He's sort of a master at like acoustic oboe acoustics, and it's what he said. He says, you know, it's there is a little bit of you have to know what you're doing. You have to go very slowly. You don't obviously don't ever want to like mess up somebody's instrument
Yeah.
ever. But yeah, it's a little bit like, and you obviously don't do things without asking people.
Mhm.
You always want to be transparent with what you're doing. But yeah, he's like, you don't really need to know why it works. You just need to know that it does work. Like you don't need to know the math behind it. You just need to know that it does. Like these things work. So
All right.
yeah. But I don't do too much like I don't do too much acoustical work on clarinets at this point because I haven't been doing it long enough.
Yeah.
It
So
takes
just
so
like
long to get good at the the stuff that you do, like the bread and butter stuff, like
mm,
getting an instrument to seal and what materials you're going to use, what kind of pads, all that kind of stuff. Like that, mastering those things, mastering your materials and your kind of hand motions to do the stuff that takes hours and hours and thousands of hours.
all right.
So
Do you have a gradually overflowing workbench full of tools now for that? I don't like I've seen.
yeah, you don't need as much as you think you would need, but and you can buy. There's something for everything, but the shop that I work in, my desk is basically just exactly what I need to do. And typically, if we need another tool, we can make it,
Mm,
or because we have a mill and a lathe, and you can kind of make things
that would be
if
nice.
you need them.
I want that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's actually pretty these days. It's not super crazy to get into. I mean, there's some really good machines coming like out of China and like mills, but you have to have space. The problem is you have to have like a space to put these things and like getting them delivered. It's these giant crates and
Right.
I don't know. Machines are they're kind of mean, but it's been nice. Like I don't know since like coronavirus. Um, this like there's no concerts or there's just not a lot of stuff that you can really do right now.
Yeah. That's part of why I started this. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I'm not playing anywhere. The studio, like, it's hit or miss because people are afraid of like proximity, and there's only so
right.
much.
Or how are you? Do you have a lot of yeah? Do you have a lot of students right now, or do
No,
you have a good bit of students?
uh, it's fluctuated kind of drastically over the
Yeah.
years. Yeah, there's a lot of people in my area who do it too. Like,
Yep.
we're it, it, I'm not complaining, but we're saturated with good talent, like people who want to do it. They have,
Yeah.
there's plenty of people here,
There's
but
good people everywhere. That's the crazy thing about music in this country is like I mean, there's good people everywhere. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse. Actually, I played a recital at UNC Chapel Hill a couple of years ago, and I've known the clarinet professor there for a while, since like 2001, and he was saying like, back whenever he was coming along, like to have the kind of people around just everywhere would have been unheard of.
yeah,
And now it's like it's just the level is gradually kind of spread out and
right. I feel like, given that environment, like new, uh, I'm looking forward to seeing new ventures come out of it, because
Mhm.
we're not all like, I mean, you said yourself when we met at audition, like there's
Mhm.
only so many of those jobs, and
I
like
know, yeah.
if
Uh,
people want to perform, if they want to create, like I think there's enough talent and will out there to start coming up with all sorts of new things, and
yeah.
the platforms available to us, like case in point, like this is going to go on YouTube, and then eventually
Mhm.
um on the various podcast platforms,
Right.
um things like even what do you got, like Spotify and these
Mhm.
like music distribution platforms,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time and organization and will to start harnessing all the talent that's out there, and just see what see what we can
Yeah.
make.
Yeah, I think that's I mean right now it's like arts organizations, no, this is really hard. I mean to not have concerts for like I don't know, I because I've never been in the administrative side of an arts organization, but it's got to be just a nightmare.
Yeah,
Knowing if you can perform, how to perform. I know that in the Augusta Symphony, they're following the CDC guide. We had a couple. I did three. They did in the fall. We did a woodwind quintet recording for their educational outreach, and we did a couple of pops recordings that they're going to like digitally stream, and then we did a masterworks that was also digitally streamed. But it's weird, like they have to follow all these guidelines, and
yeah,
you can't have musicians super close to each other, and even then it's like you feel a little bit at risk. You feel really exposed sitting on stage with a bunch of musicians because you don't know, you may not have ever talked to some of the people on stage. I don't know, like it's just really, and then you think, oh no, that was the week I was exposed and I'm gonna, but
it's
it's
yeah.
really
No, that's a lot to deal with, and a lot to pivot from if you're used to
yeah.
this a particular tradition of doing things. It's funny, like everything's Corona right now, but I remember when I first came home from undergrad work, and I was just playing some of the local small groups, and I just casually, like, I'd been playing next to this older gentleman for a while. We'd casually talked, and came up talking about mouthpieces, and he had like a kind of curious mouthpiece, like, hey, can I, if we clean it off, can I play it? And he's like, oh no, I have hep, like, and just like, so this whole breathing like hepatitis or whatever, like
Oh
we
my god.
so like, okay, well, I guess I'm not gonna try your cool mouthpiece, but noted. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then whenever I was studying, like I did my undergrad at Cincinnati Conservatory, and Ron de Kant was my teacher, and
mhm.
he would say like, was I can't remember if he'd be like, "Do you have you're not sick?" I'm like, "No." Here, try this,
Right,
or whatever. Like I'm like, you're just not sick. I guess that's a thing.
right. We're yeah
It's
the
gonna go on
the
the honor system here.
yeah the long history of wind players being gross with equipment. Well, I mean, we did it too.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a thing that is gonna just be gone after this. Nobody is gonna be gross with equipment. I know that I'm not. I know that it's like I'm never gonna touch somebody else's instrument again.
Yeah, it's we'll see how it goes, and I think too. I mean, I, like synthetic reeds and things like
Hmm.
that, then they may take an uptick just because you can wipe those off and like sanitize them to some
Yeah,
extent.
you actually know that they're sanitized because they're not porous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, interesting. We'll see the directions things go.
Yeah.
So let me dig back here. Are
Okay.
you okay on time today? I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, yeah, everything's fine.
how did you get started in clarinet in the first place?
Well, middle school band, like most people, but I have an interesting. The thing was, is I was pretty bad when I first, and I didn't know I had a clarinet that didn't work, so that wasn't my fault. I didn't know that it didn't work though. And then at some point, in my second year, my mom, I grew up in a single mother. My mom was a single mom, and so I thought she decided it'd be a good idea to marry my band director. So my band director was my stepdad, and I really credit a lot of my musical career to him because I started practicing and I know it's kind of like anything else. Like if you get any kind of skill on something, you start to get recognized for it. Now all of a sudden you love it, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's all this
Yeah,
like it's kind of virtuous cycle.
right.
So it ended up like that, and I ended up kind of excelling in it, and then I ended up studying at the Cincinnati Conservatory, but that was Northwestern. So, but all of that, all the practice that went in, in high school, I kind of got obsessed with it. I kind of was the ultimate clarinet nerd when I was like 15 years old, and I've never really stopped being a clarinet nerd. Um,
Yeah, I think
so
that's part of persisting in the field. You're just constantly in that condition. I don't know.
yeah, I know. Lately it's been like there hasn't been a lot of concerts and a lot of performance opportunities. So I was a little bit first for a while. I kind of just I think I actually didn't touch my clarinet for a while. A lot of my friends did the same thing. I didn't. It was just like almost too painful to like revisit. And I had a few things here and there, but really what's kept me going is my nerdery and my curiosity with the clarinet, like always looking for something or trying a different mouthpiece or different reeds or
yeah,
like the nerdery has really kept me going.
yeah. No,
Uh,
it's great. I mean, that's one of the things that's fueled me through these interviews because being secluded from people for a better part of this year, and then
yep.
being able to talk shop with a lot of old friends. It's
Hmm.
a little cathartic for me, and I figured, if I put this in public, maybe it'll help other people too. But then
Yeah.
same deal, like I don't, who am I going to talk to about clarinet stuff? Like my two dogs, or you
What
know,
that's the way it's been for me too. It's like I don't have anybody really to I mean, I haven't. I mean, like I've seen my colleague in the orchestra like in Savannah like one time. The second clarinetist in Augusta is the principal of Savannah, so we swap, you know, at each orchestra. So it's like we sit next to each other. In a normal year, we probably play 20 or 30 concerts together,
yeah,
sitting next to each other. But I haven't seen her like I've seen her like once,
yeah,
and so I don't really get to. I don't, and it's like you can be a little bit isolated right now because it's like there aren't many opportunities to get out and be around other clarinet players.
right,
And clarinet players tend to be pretty good people. I mean, for the vast majority, like really pleasant, kind people.
yeah,
But yeah, so lately I've been just kind of just geeking out. Actually, that the great thing is right now, since there are no concerts, I just pick up whatever mouthpiece I'm playing on, like, and I don't have to worry about performing, so I just play on whatever's fun to play on.
yeah.
Because I have like a normal setup that I know works really well, and late playing on. Okay, I think is all right. This has been an issue because my partner she has to teach sometimes and have meetings
Hmm.
on Zoom, and so sometimes this happens. Sometimes it's fine, and then other times it's like a nightmare. and we've both been like, she's been super irritated. She's like, should I call AT&T? I don't know. So they're not really going to do anything because they have a monopoly.
Yeah. Oh well, we tiny peons just deal with what we get, I guess.
I know, right? So I've been like, what anyway, so yeah, I was basically saying how much of a nerd I've been about my clarinet mouthpieces and playing on the different, uh, like the most vanilla. Actually, I've been playing on the most vanilla mouthpiece the last few days, the 5RV Lyre. So vanilla, but you know what it sounds. I've been recording it, making some recordings with it, just because what else am I going to do with my time
Yeah.
besides set up a microphone and record myself? Is like I've noticed it sounds really great. It's like a really balanced, nice sound.
Yeah. I mean, stuff like that. There's a reason it's become like, or there's a reason it's gained the notoriety it has.
Yeah, and every recording I've ever heard myself play on with that, well, actually, I only have a couple of recordings, like just like live concert recordings with that mouthpiece. I think, and I'm like, wow, that sounds really great. I should just always play on that. And then, but the problem is like it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't feel as good as something like some of the other mouthpieces.
Yeah. That can be such a personal thing too. Like, you know, the feel, the effort, whatever it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I've had this talk uh, with one of my teachers, Eric Ginsberg. He's
Hmm.
over at Western Illinois now, but
Yep.
um, like because we've done our share of gear nerd stuff over the years,
Hmm.
and like, he or I will come up with some mouthpiece or some new bit of equipment, and like
Hmm.
it sounds good, but I always come to the same conclusion. Like it still sounds like you playing it,
Yep.
like
Hmm.
but and then like where do you like where at what point does that move the needle to make me want to like play on one thing over the other? You know,
Yeah.
if you're
My yeah. Yeah, my thing has always been like, if I've always looked at like the responsiveness,
mm,
because for me, responsiveness is always an issue. I mean, I think we all feel like our articulation isn't fast enough
yeah,
being clarinetists. I don't know why, but I think there are few people who have really fast articulations. Like I'm not one of them. So I have to like, I'm always like judging equipment based on like articulation.
yeah,
Is it responsive, and does it just speak immediately? And if it doesn't do that, I just can't play it for some reason. It's like not gonna last. But the 5RV is good. I mean, like it's crazy. I had students back when I was living in Augusta. I had a bunch of private students back then, and some of the band directors would always have them on like a 5RV. They'd be like, "I hate this mouthpiece." And they're like,
why?
I don't know why exactly. They're like, I don't know. It's just so not. It's 5RV. I don't know. It's like
Yeah,
seems like the standard mouthpiece. Well, there's a reason.
yeah, no, yeah, they become standards for a reason. But
Yeah.
what's your typical setup for your orchestra work then, if it's different?
I I've always played almost exclusively. I've always played on like an M15
Okay.
with like a number four reed. Uh, that's just always been it. I've it feels like home.
Mm,
I've tried other things along the way. I've played on a lot of other things along the way, but the M15, the Van Doren, it's always been. And then right now, I have these three M15s that Ramon Woodkowski refaced,
yes.
and like maybe 3 years ago, I had him just he worked on them, and they feel much better after he worked on them, and the three are much more consistent. So I have these three mouthpieces that I use fairly regularly.
Was it
And
just the facing work, or did he do anything to the guts inside or anything like
no,
that?
he just cleaned up the facing. I had an older one. Um, Actually, I had my favorite M15 that I ever owned was the one that like I won the Augusta Symphony audition with, and then I stopped playing on it because it kind of got weird.
Hmm.
And I had him work on that one, and then work on other three other ones, and they're just really he just touched up the facing. I think he applied basically just the facing, like basically made sure it was still balanced, and
Hmm.
I don't know, that's like magic. Working on mouthpieces is definitely like magic.
Yeah, I don't understand. I've talked to one of my previous episodes was with Brad Bain. We went
Hmm.
into a lot of detail, and what's chilling is that as much detail as we went into discussing it, there's still more to like. That was for him. That was like just the surface of the subject. So
Yeah,
there
he
seems like there's so much to know for that topic.
right. Yeah, he just actually worked on one of my mouthpieces and came back, and now it plays again. So like, and it's great.
Yeah,
So people who have like experience with that, I think that's like it takes like 20 years or something of study and to develop that kind of that skill set. It's not something you just learn overnight.
right.
So it's worth whatever money they're charging for their mouthpieces. It's actually peanuts to the amount of time they put into it.
Yeah, the
I mean,
sunk cost into that. Um,
yep.
I've been bugging Ramon to get on the show at some point. So if enough people are listening, maybe I'll get maybe I'll get him on and nerd out some more. But he's up around here, like in the Midwest somewhere, and
Yeah.
like Ann Arbor or Detroit, somewhere around there.
I think I read on his Facebook he's in Ann Arbor now.
Ann Arbor.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Or I just saw his Facebook update that he was basically working by mail and like everybody else, like
Yeah.
just whatever, just kind of hunkering down until we get a vaccine or something and we can actually all come out of hiding.
Right. Well, soon at some
Yeah.
point. I mean, it won't. None of this will be forever, but
No.
it's how we persevere and how we manage this time now. We'll see what comes out on the other side.
Hmm.
But um, what since we're talking equipment a little bit, what clarinets are you on?
I've been playing on a Buffet Tosca for the last 10. I think I got mine in. I was kind of an early adopter
Mm,
with the Toscas. I Not a lot of people had them back in 2010. It seems like everybody's like has a Tosca in their hands now. I mean, like anytime I see a picture of somebody, it's like I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's like a new thing for people to really. It just took a little while for them to catch on. I got mine back in 2009. That was that was my first. I had R13s, and then I tried some Toscas, and they were like I really liked them,
mm,
and then I dropped some. They're not cheap
right.
as far as clarinets go. I
Yeah.
mean, in the grand scheme of things, clarinets are pretty cheap. But at the time, it was like kind of a like a sticker. There was a sticker shock to it, and I remember thinking like as I was driving home, the car that I was driving at the time, the clarinets were actually more expensive than the car that I was driving. So I like I bought them and I'm like driving like oh man, and then but I've enjoyed them. That I like that the tuning is really good. I think that's the thing I like the most is that they're really the bullseye to hit is much smaller, and they feel really good in orchestra, and they kind of have. I would say that they're a little bit less. Maybe they're a little less flexible than like another model, like a regular R13. Because every time I play an R13, I'm like, I really like the sound, like a good R13. Like they've got a great big sound. I don't think
Yeah.
Toscas have maybe that same kind of that big sound. I don't know how to describe it, but they're definitely a pleasure to play.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the type of playing you're doing too, I guess matters because if you're primarily an orchestra and you have
Yeah.
your particular needs for projection and tuning and whatever, like you got to play something that fits the setting.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've was it, I think talking to Brad about his some of his equipment, like he recently released some adjustable barrels,
Right. Hmm.
and like one of them, uh, I forget which one or the other of them, he recommends more for orchestral playing because there seems to be more projection and focus
Hmm.
compared to the other. Um, I don't know. I haven't spent a whole lot of time like narrowing my equipment down to that extent. I think I've just looked for the kind of basics of like comfort and sound that I like, and was it stuff that gets me yelled at the least.
Yeah.
like um,
Yep.
I've had weird experiences with teachers in the past, like I got to play what they tell me to play, or
Hmm.
like they try or like negative marketing where I just like whatever I have that's just garbage and you need to do this, like
Yeah.
or play this or that. Like, well, I don't know that it's garbage because what you're recommending to me doesn't feel or sound or operate well, and it's just what you're used to, you know.
Yeah. I think it's all really personal. Like I said, I was like kind of an early. I don't. People were not really playing Toscas back in 2009. Even they were released in like 2003, 2004, somewhere around in there. There weren't a ton of people, and I really liked them, and they really felt very comfortable.
Mm.
And I've actually, I mean, I've over the years, I've really because I've played the. I mean, I just sold my backup set like last year because they were just sitting in the closet and I wasn't using them. And
Yeah.
now it's like if something breaks, I just fix it.
Right.
Like the day, I don't have to wait. I just go to the shop and I'm like, oh, the tenon cork. I just fix it. And so I was thinking like, I don't know, they're not really serving me anymore. So I kind of offloaded my R13s and then, which is I guess risky, but I mean, they're not serving me. So
Yeah. Why,
uh,
why
yeah,
why hang on? But
yeah. But I really like if I had more if I had more expendable income, I'd probably own a lot more many more clarinets.
yeah.
Right? I mean, there's like it's always tempting. Like clarinets are fun to try, especially like I mean, like the different brands too. I mean, Yamaha makes really great instruments. I don't know if you've tried Yamaha clarinets lately, but they're just like I've played a couple lately that are just really good.
Yeah.
And
No, I've it's well, not recently, but I've had hands on some of the Yamahas. So I think within a year and a half or so.
mhm,
Uh, Again, like this year being unusual.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I need to get out there. Actually, tomorrow I'm visiting my friend's shop up in Huntley because
Mhm,
got um, he's got a bunch of like kind of the newer generation of professional clarinets to kind of go over and try.
mhm,
I'm I just hadn't been out there trying new stuff. Part
yeah.
of it's just like I had stuff that worked. It hasn't really gone like real out of whack for me.
Mhm.
I just kept playing it. Um, but then now like every once in a while, if students ask me what to recommend as step up instruments, I kind
Mhm.
of like I feel a little embarrassed because like I kind of don't know what
What
other than the old standards, like what new stuff that I could
I
recommend.
don't. Yeah, I don't either. That's the thing. Like some people ask, like what student clarinets or whatever. I never really know how to answer that question. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, I never like are an intermediate like because right now, I mean, like what is the answer to that? Because it used to be R13 because they were not super expensive, but
Yeah.
they've come up in price a bit.
Right.
Since I mean, I bought my the last R13 I bought was in 2005, and it was I think $2,600 at the time, and now the same instruments I think $4,000.
Yeah.
It's a silver plated R13. So I don't know, like sometimes students are maybe not in the market for that much money.
Right.
So like, what is in that $2,000 to $3,000 range? That I mean, Yamahas are, I think, still maybe.
Some, I mean,
Yeah.
they provide. I know they provide instrument models that are met for that category, kind of the
Yeah.
step up and advancing student. I think the top of the line pro instruments are still like top of the line pro price,
Yeah.
but
Right, right. I think when I was in middle school, I got an E11,
Mm.
and I think it was $900.
Yeah.
And it was a good instrument, and I think I sold it for like $500. Like a few, like in 2005, I should have like held on to it. But yeah, it's like the prices have come up a lot in the last few years.
Yeah. I'd be curious what the dynamics are behind that, other than just kind of inflation over time. I've
Yeah.
always heard I've always heard things about, issues with sourcing the wood and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. It's like maybe we're just to that point where those traditional materials are that price. I don't know.
Right. We've had this conversation, and it's just like kind of a off the cuff conversation in the shop about wood and about availability. And I don't know. Like, I don't know. I can't speak with any kind of authority on it, but it's got to be something. I mean, especially with sustainably produced, material. We can't just keep harvesting these trees that take 50 years to grow.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
yeah, and I don't know.
I think I think we have to be careful with the business model of selling instruments like that too, because it used to be kind of a like now it feels like an industry. Before it kind of felt like you're buying into like an art
Hmm.
in a way, and like there's kind of a different sense of exclusivity about having something like that.
Hmm.
Now it's like how many can we crank out? What's our profit margin at at our company?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
get more of a sense of that. I can't speak for what it actually is behind the scenes, but it just feels more like that to me
Yeah.
from the big companies.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty amazing the like what you get for the money. We've had this conversation. You know how buffet is like their instruments when they come out, like if you buy them directly, you know, and they haven't had any work done to them, like their bumper, like things are just not really set up very well.
Yeah, yeah. You can't play it out of the box from the factory. Like,
Right, but what you're getting though is this like what people don't realize is you're getting like this instrument that is acoustically a really great design. Once you get it set up, it's fine. But yeah, the finishing is just not sometimes is not great. So you're always trying, it's not and I think people don't really like amateur buy like parents and stuff, students, they don't really understand that. Like that you have to take your instrument in and have it fixed every now and again and serviced. But nobody realized like, I just bought this new instrument. Like it should be like it should work.
right.
But
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's the responsibility of the the retailer, or does the band director, because we're in the US with the way our wind instrument programs are here,
Yeah.
like does the band director need to remember to do that, or and I know not every kid takes private lessons, like
Right. So they don't. Yeah.
yeah, like I tell my students, especially when they're starting to step up, or when the parents like actually purchase as opposed to rent.
Hmm.
Hey, here's the shop guys I recommend around
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know,
Yeah. You've got to. The thing is it's like maintaining anything. Like these instruments, you have to maintain them, or they're just like anything else. It's like a car. You would never buy a car and not expect to get an oil change
right?
or get a tire replaced every now and again,
Yeah. I
or
mean
spark plugs or whatever.
the I mean, to go with that analogy too, like most people, when you buy a car, you expect to be able to drive it off the lot without any problems either.
That's true. Yeah, that's another thing. Like they don't understand. I get you because they buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it's fine. You don't have to have anything done to it. But some clarinets have to. What was it? My teacher said that what you would do is back whenever he was a student. This is Ron de Kant. He said that you would go and you would pick the best clarinet, best R13 you could find, and then you would go to Hans Menig and you would spend a day and he would basically go over the instrument from top to bottom, and that's like what you did. And then that's how and then you would get it in a good instrument. But that was just like standard procedure.
Right. I've heard stories like that out of Cal's studio. I mean, he was at the point where he was just like making a bunch of his own stuff,
Hmm.
or like from mouthpiece to bell was just he had his hands on everything.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
everyone in his studio, if you were playing in his studio at a certain like for a certain length of time, he made your setup. Like
Wow.
I didn't spend long enough in his studio to get that. Plus, when I met him, he was already in his late 80s and early
Mm.
90s. Like, but yeah, like it's part of why when you hear a lot of them play, they sound very similar because like they're
Mm.
playing on his stuff. Like
Wow.
it's all almost exactly the same sound concept coming out of the studio. And like I remember hearing recordings of like they had their own clarinet choir that they played together,
Hmm.
and
Right.
it, it just like profoundly uniform. Like
Hmm.
um I don't know, but yeah, getting set up from new. Like I don't know if that's like what we need to do to change that. I know like so like you know my friend Harry from the previous episode, he part of why he opened his store is so that he could be the one doing those adjustments before he gets those things to market.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of people are doing that. Like a lot of people who have like clarinet shops, they're doing some sort of setup work um, before it goes off into people's. They make sure that everything is working, and then that's kind of the way clarinet sales is going right now. It's like you have to set them up.
Yeah.
So like in other words, you don't have to just go find somebody. The people who sell the clarinets are doing that. Right. That's the personal thing has been going on, I think, for a while. Yeah, but I think that yeah, I think actually if Yamaha clarinets, that's another thing is they play really well out of the box.
Hmm.
There's the finishing work is good. The same on their oboes. Their oboes, the finishing work is really nice. The pad seal, the instrument seal, everything plays. And so when you try like other instruments, like their finishing work is it's a finished product.
I always feel like I want to get my hands on an oboe again just to play with it. Like I did music ed for undergrad, so we had to
Hmm.
learn a bunch of these other instruments,
Hmm.
and I don't know. I bear some curiosity for oboe still, but
Oh, that instrument. Oh, that's a difficult instrument.
I feel like I'm already messing with my brain for oxygen content when I play clarinet.
Right. Yeah.
I can't imagine oboes. My ears are gonna explode out or something. Um, let's see. Let's dig back again a little bit.
Mhm.
Keep returning to equipment, which
Mhm.
I mean, we're all curious about too. But uh, who all? You mentioned some of your teachers already. Who all did you study with over the years?
I studied with my first kind of real clarinet teacher was Bob Cheesebro. He taught at Furman University,
Yeah,
and then I studied with him for 4 years, all through high school, and then I studied with I took 2 summers of lessons with Dan Silver at Interlochen
mm,
Arts Camp, 2 very meaningful summers, and then I went to my undergrad at Cincinnati, where I studied with Ron de Kant. I was his last class before he retired. So he retired. He retired my senior year, and then after that, I went to Northwestern, and I studied with Russ Dagon for a year. He retired after that year, and then Steve Cohen for my
yeah,
second year. So Steve Cohen, and then I didn't take lessons for a while because I got a job. I started performing after that, and then I was gone. I was out about in the world for about 8 years, and then I decided to go get a doctorate, and then I applied and I got into the program at Stony Brook, and I studied with Alan Kay for 3 years.
yeah.
Alan he's a I mean they're all I had all great teachers, but Alan was a really huge influence on me. He's really just an amazing musician and a wonderful person. I mean, not that all these other people aren't. I'm just
Right.
he's the
Right.
most recent, and it was really weird going back, like having basically studied the clarinet for a long time, uh, basic what like 10 years of study, and then taking like an 8 year hiatus, and then going back and kind of studying with somebody like after you've been a professional for a while.
Yeah.
It was really refreshing. I just getting somebody else's, just listening to getting somebody to listen to you, or somebody to listen to me, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
and going back and just it was really I took it a lot. I mean, not that I wasn't serious, but it's just a different perspective
Yeah.
on things. Um, yeah, and then when I yeah, so those are all my teachers. Um, all very interesting people and good influences.
Yeah. What's what, if you can pick out a couple, because I know that's a lot of
Mhm.
good information to sift through.
Yeah.
What are some major core lessons you picked up?
So I would say that, um, well, my first teacher, Bob Cheesebro, he taught me how to practice.
Mm.
He taught me and maybe maybe I wasn't the best at it, like following, but he definitely had a method to practicing and how to learn music. And that was kind of what I took away from him, just how to practice, how to learn music, how to learn things in an efficient way. And then when I went to Cincinnati, Ron de Kant, he really just, because he was a Bonnard student,
Yeah.
I think his big thing was it was phrasing. I learned a lot about phrasing from him. How to play the clarinet in a much more like like he was big on like finesse and playing in an artistic manner, right? Hand movements, good phrasing, good. He was a real stickler about really good rhythm.
Mm.
He wanted to, and so I spent a lot of time in the Rose Etudes. I think I did like all 72, the 32 and the 40. I did in like the first year, basically in the first year. I did the first year, 4 quarters or something. I did all 32 and 40 in like a little under a year and a half with him.
Mm.
It was a kind of a crazy 6 to 7 etudes a week type situation. And then, but yeah, he was really, he also really liked, he was a very practical teacher. Like he was like, you can't do this, and what you're doing right now, well, you can't do that in the real world. You have to be more collaborative.
Yeah.
So he would always say, your pianist is going to kill you if you do that. You can't do that. You can't play it like that. They're going to kill you. So he always tried to, mix in real world, because he was a professional performer for like his entire career. So he always approached teaching from like a very practical aspect. And then, in Northwestern, it was more of like, I think Mr. Dagon, he was really big on like making a really good sound, making sure your sound was always really good,
Mhm.
and then Steve Cohen, he's a really great teacher. I think he's really he well, at least when I studied with him, he could be very scary to play for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of environment, it makes you a lot better. I know that I was like Steve Cohen was really really good to me, but he could be scary to play for, and so was Ron DeCant, but in very different ways.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I don't like basically. So and then Alan was studying with him. I think that was another when I finally did my doctorate. I think it was. I don't really think I really. I think I was a functional clarinet player when I came to him, and I think more in terms of artistry and like what is like good music. I don't know how to describe it. It's like he was really instrumental in like kind of making me more of an artist
Mm.
and less of a clarinetist.
I think I understand because
Yeah.
I know my previous guests we've kind of hit on this a little bit. There's I mean there's a point there's part of your development where you're like really focused on operating the instrument well
Hmm.
and like all these other you know um like kind of like practical
Yes.
but like mechanical type things.
Hmm.
And then there's a point where you start kind of becoming yourself a little bit more
Hmm.
as the artist. I mean, everyone's kind of touched on it in slightly different ways, but it takes. I think it just takes that time and enough other people's perspective to arrive at like whatever you're going to be.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. It makes sense, but I don't know how to say it either.
Yeah. It's like you end up hearing. I mean, it's very concrete at the beginning, and then you just need to play. I mean, for me, it was just being exposed to these different people, and but one thing always was in common. They were always these particular the teachers that I studied with in my degrees. I don't think that any of them were really focused too much on the mechanics of the instrument.
Mm,
But then again, I think that that might have been. I never really had a lot of mechanic. I've only had a few really. I never had a lot of mechanical problems. So I don't know if that's just something they like left me to my own devices to figure
yeah,
out.
could be.
So, but yeah, but with definitely when I was at Stony Brook, it was more like he was definitely pushing me to be more of an independent thinker and artist,
Mm,
and and allowing me to do that. You know, not in a very encouraging but not stifling way. And yeah, he's well, and also just hearing him play is like he's. I don't know if you've ever heard him perform. It's pretty incredible. He's a. I mean, there's. I never really experienced the like kind of the New York music scene
mhm.
before I lived there, but there's not the thing about New York City is I you don't have much time to practice because you spend all your time getting from point A to point B. It's all logistics.
Right.
That city is all logistics. It's like you can't and I somebody told me this before I moved there that it's basically you're just always figuring out how you're getting from here to here and then when you get there you don't have much time. You're spending all your time traveling.
Yeah. That's I haven't had as long, but that's been my experience around there as well. Like I recall it being expensive and terrifying, regardless of how I traveled.
I remember my first few weeks in the program there. I was going to my lesson and I told Alan I said I was like I don't feel like I'm getting enough practice. I don't feel like I'm really able to practice enough because I'm just always traveling. And he was
Yeah.
like, "You'll get used to it. You'll get used to it. You'll become more efficient with your practice. You'll figure out exactly what you need to do." Because I couldn't have, I mean, like, it took me, I was living in the city, but I was commuting. I was living in Queens and I was commuting out as an hour and 15-minute drive or 2 hours door to door by train.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he lives in New Jersey.
Right.
So he comes, like, he drives, to
Yeah.
teach.
Get to
And
that
it's like,
bridge and all
it,
that stuff, or the tunnel. Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting you put it that way. Like the type of pressure that forces you to accomplish more with the time that you have.
yeah.
Um,
And there it was, like, kind of crazy because, not everybody's out at Stony Brook. Stony Brook's kind of far off on Long Island. And some of the people in the program live out on Long Island, but a lot of the people in the program live in Manhattan or I had a colleague in the program. She actually lived in New Jersey, and so it can be very challenging to rehearse. You're rehearsing on these like kind of it's actually it feels like a you want to rehearse and you want to have like a lot of rehearsals, but
Yeah.
it's impossible to rehearse. It's kind of like a professional. At least when I joined the orchestra in Augusta, like the professional orchestra rehearsal, 2 or 3 rehearsals, and you have a concert. Stony Brook is a little bit like that. It's the same kind of thing. You don't rehearse as much as you probably should. Um, I feel like I got away with like rehearsing my recital material. Not, I would have rather had more rehearsal, but I ended up not because my pianist was in the city, and
Yeah.
I'd have to like go in and we'd rehearse, and it was just the logistics of it all. It's just kind of a nightmare. But everybody seems to manage there, I think.
Yeah. And like you said, like learning, learning to succeed, like in spite of that environment,
Right.
or like, yeah, I think in a broader sense, like you kind of need that pressure in general to move forward,
Hmm.
wherever it's coming from.
Yeah.
But hearing you say it, it makes a lot of things make more sense to me. Like the way, like all my New York friends, like my experience with them and how they kind of are, like,
Yeah.
okay, it makes more sense to me now.
There's just no time for anything. Everybody's just super short, and like you got to get to the point.
Yeah.
Then they don't have time, and if you can't do something, they're going to call somebody else,
Right.
and they need to call them 5 minutes ago. It's like that's just the way it is. It's like you're always 5 minutes late in New York City. Um, at least that was my experience. I only lived there for 3 years. I can't claim to actually. I didn't really play too many gigs there. I played like I played like a couple of recording sessions and like one gig, and but I wasn't there. I was there to get in and get out.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of that particular style of life. Um, Maybe it's because I grew up in South Carolina.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't.
definitely a different pace, different mentality down there.
Yeah, I feel like maybe. I mean, I lived in Chicago for a couple of years, but Chicago's a much more livable city, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, in most places where there's fewer shootings, I guess. Um,
Well, yeah, I haven't lived there in a long time. And I lived when I lived there, I lived in Edgewater, Andersonville area.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the Chicago area, it's pretty benign, and there's, like any major metropolitan area, there's going to be some places that are more troublesome than others. But
Yeah,
you know, for the most part, it's a good city. It's operates fairly well for the most part.
yeah.
Um, I don't get there very often. Well, certainly this year, but in general, I
Hmm.
haven't gotten that out as often as I might like.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I can't. I was there last summer for that Northwestern alumni thing,
mm,
the Symphonic Wind Ensemble 50th anniversary. But then,
oh,
yeah, it was when travel was actually no, that was sorry. When I say last summer, I mean the summer of 2019 because
mhm,
2020 summer doesn't exist.
right.
It's not a real summer. So yeah, I kind of skipped over 2020 summer. But yeah, when travel was still a thing, it was yeah last, and I actually went to the Clarinet Fest in 2019 too. That was kind of fun.
Wait, where was that one again?
In Knoxville.
Knoxville. Okay. I was
Yeah.
planning to do the one this year, but then this year happened.
Yeah. Then this year, I know that's the thing. Yeah, I had never been to a Clarinet Fest. And then I didn't expect, but it was like I saw all these friends that I haven't seen in like years. It was kind of awesome. I was a little bit like I don't really want to like do too much clarinet stuff. I just want to see people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So uh, now that that's come up, like other than running into a lot of your old friends, which is it's always nice
Hmm.
to run
Yeah.
into friends, but how how was the rest of the experience for you there? Like, I mean, you're a working professional. Did you feel like you had like it had a lot to offer you?
Yeah, actually, it's cool if you want to try. I mean, they have all the equipment is there, like so you can nerd out as much or as little as you
Yeah.
want. It's kind of impossible to try this stuff in like actually I tried the D'Addario mouthpieces, the Evolution.
Hmm.
I tried those, and I tried some clarinets. I went to you do know the Rodriguez's, Heather Rodriguez, Alcides Rodriguez.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Heather and I went to Northwestern together. So she's a friend of mine. So I sat at their booth and tried. They had a ton of clarinets because they have a shop in Atlanta, or they both opened a shop in Atlanta, and I tried a bunch of their clarinets, and then I went to a couple of recitals. Do you know Jeff Brooks? He's the
Sounds
new
familiar.
he's the new clarinet professor at University of New Mexico.
Okay.
He's a great performer. He used to live in Atlanta and he played some in Augusta Symphony. Actually, he subbed a lot in Augusta Symphony, and then we kind of played a lot in the south in the region.
Mm.
And then he got the job in New Mexico, so he's been out there. Um, I heard his recital. I went to Luff and Pfeiffer. I went to their like lecture on repair because I was interested in what they had to say, and then I went to a few other things. But I was basically like just seeing friends and like trying equipment, and yeah, I thought it was good though. I had never been to UT, University of Tennessee.
Mm.
They have a nice campus. Yeah, I thought it was pretty fun. I thought it had a good bit to offer.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a little while since I've been to one. I used to try to hit them as often as I could back
Hmm.
in, especially undergrad and a little bit for master's work because I trying to bleed my student memberships and student loans to for all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of interesting experiences. Like, I think I did one. I remember I did one in Vancouver years
Hmm.
ago. Um, half of the joy of it was just traveling somewhere, and seeing a different
Right.
community, um, and then hearing like it's kind of blessing and curse, like going out on the showroom floor and hearing everyone play their like blasting away the excerpts.
It's like Mendelssohn Scherzo.
Yeah,
Like,
everywhere, and 100,000
like,
people playing or Daphnis or something like
yeah, I know.
showroom floor is not an audition. Like it, like some recruiter is not just going to swoop down like, hey,
I
you
know.
guy play
I
a
was like,
clarinet.
can you just play a scale or something? Like,
Right.
does everybody have to be playing like, yeah, Daphnis and Chloe? And that's
Yeah.
what I do remember that it was kind of funny. It's like, why am I hearing so many Mendelssohn scherzos? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, don't people know that that's an actual torture method?
Right.
I mean, that excerpt is literally torture.
Yeah. Maybe that's why I stopped trying to go for auditions after a certain point. It's like,
It's hard.
like playing the actual pieces in context of an orchestra, kind of fun. But
Yeah.
like drilling like these, like
It's
yeah, it's
it's demoralizing after a while, and it's not really. You have to do it in order to get stuff, to get like the opportunity to perform, but it at the same time it can be very after a while. I mean, I've taken a ton of auditions in my life, and I decided I'm just I don't really like auditions,
yeah. No,
and
I know for me the last couple was like I kind of know where this is going already, but I should do it. And
mhm.
like, hey, this I haven't been to this city before. Maybe I'll find something fun to eat and maybe hang out with some new clarinet
Yeah.
friends while I'm there after we get canned the first round or whatever.
Well, everybody. I mean, everybody doesn't. 'Cause so many people, like famous people, don't get out of first rounds. That's the crazy thing. Is like you can be in a first round with somebody who is famous.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was very precocious when I was like, what? like right when I had just got out of my master's degree, I was like, oh, I'm going to take the principal clarinet of the Chicago Symphony. I'm going to take that audition.
Yes.
And I was in the first round with a famous person, and they didn't get out of the preliminaries. And it was
Yep.
like I'm not famous. Like they're famous. And I was thinking like this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's like, and there was some complaining that happened about that audition on some forum somewhere, and somebody was like boo-hooing, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's the Chicago Symphony. You didn't get out of they were complaining that the first round didn't demonstrate, like it was like Brahms, Beethoven, and Mozart, and like it didn't demonstrate what? Like they're not listening. They can tell. It's like the best musicians on the planet in that
Yeah.
audition panel. They can tell how good you are. They don't need to hear you play Mendelssohn's Scherzo and Daphnis and Chloe and Stravinsky Firebird to tell if you're good.
Right.
And so the person was complaining that like how can they tell? Like they can
Oh
tell.
man. Yeah. It's great. I mean, auditions. Uh, yeah, people should take auditions because there's so much stuff to learn from so many perspectives. But
Yeah.
yeah, like it's no, it's an unusual thing. I think the more of them I took, for me personally, like I just it gave me more drive to want to make my own thing, whatever I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Like I mean, and don't get me wrong, like
Yeah.
I love orchestra. I play orchestra around
Hmm.
here when like during normal circumstances.
Right.
But yeah, I like it just increased my drive to want to try to craft something of my own.
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Yeah, me too. Actually, I've been thinking, like, my dream has always been to have a chamber music series. I don't know
yeah,
why. Like, something that I can do where I play music that's really meaningful and play it with people that are meaningful to me. And it's hard to figure that out, though. Like, you go your kind of you just kind of think about it. And if you've been, like, if you don't have a ton of time to think about it, like, I haven't had a ton of time to think about it, but now it's like, now is the time to think about it. If you
yeah,
want to do something like that, like I think because nobody has the time. I mean, now we have the time to think about it. I was actually just talking to somebody just earlier today. Like this December usually is like my busiest schedule. Various whatever orchestras and Christmas concerts and
yeah.
whatever.
Dust
This
off the
year's
sleigh ride again.
nothing. I mean, like I played we recorded a Pops concert for digital distribution 2 months ago or whatever. We played the Christmas concert then, but now it's like I don't really have any. It's nice that this is going to be my first normal December, like as a human being. I
Right.
think since I was like 12, 13, because I remember my very first Christmas gig. I played when I was 14 years old. I played at a midnight service, and I played the second movement to the Mozart Clarinet Concerto for their offertory.
Very nice.
And it was my very first Christmas gig, and I was 14, and I haven't had a normal Christmas since then. So and I'm 38 now, so it's only been 24 years.
Oh man.
So this year I'm going to have a normal Christmas
There you go.
or a normal whatever you celebrate. I
Yes.
commercialized if you celebrate whatever you celebrate. I'm going to have a normal December. Um, yeah.
Yeah. I
So
have.
I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Yeah. No. I mean, a lot of my music friends take more of those. I think I just got at some point I got sour from the Christmas gigs.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it's hard. It's a really busy time of year, and it's hard to be uh, it's hard to be positive during Christmas gigs. But when you don't have them, and it's like, man, I really wish I had a Christmas gig. That'd be nice.
yeah, yeah, the blessing and curse, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, no, at least there won't be a Christmas gig that I say no to because I normally I say no to them now.
Yeah.
I I don't get a lot of them anyways
Yeah.
around here, but just what am I going to say yes to? Like yet another year playing sleigh ride, uh, and whatever, like all the I hear it enough just walking in a grocery store this time of year.
Hmm.
Like I think my whatever part of my brain or soul that belongs to is just exhausted from it.
Yeah, so it's a nice break. I think musicians are going to be refreshed when 2021 Christmas rolls around and they're
Yeah,
back playing Sleigh Ride, and it's like, oh, that was a nice hiatus.
right. Oh man.
But actually, the people who play, it's kind of stinks. Some of the people who play Nutcracker, like I have colleagues who are in the Atlanta Ballet, and they do like 26 or 30 Nutcrackers from Thanksgiving to New Year. I don't know what their schedule is, but it's
Yeah,
always like it's a lot of Nutcrackers. Um,
yeah, that'd be substantial chunk of change, right?
well, that's like, yeah, it's a big part of their income, and so it kind of stinks. I mean, this is like that's actually the hard part about all this is that like a lot of people's incomes have just been kind of crushed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's the hard part. But I think you've always got to at least look at some of the positive. Here we are.
Yes. Ra- Round three or four, whatever
And
we're on.
I wore the same shirt, so
Yeah, me too. That's okay.
and I'm holding the
The,
same mug.
the power of creative editing will I'll get it all spliced together. This Frankenstein episode.
Yeah,
Um, anyways, welcome back. Um,
we're back.
yeah, get my bearings again. We were talking about clarinet things, as we do on this
Yes,
show.
yeah,
Um,
clarinet things, all things clarinet. I
uh,
was thinking after like last time, I was like, man, I wish like you had Brad on, and he's like so cool. Like he's like those people are so knowledgeable about things, and I'm thinking like, what do I even know? I perform a lot, but like compared to like actual like mouthpiece knowledge or like that kind of stuff, like I'm kind of like I was like I guess all I've been doing is performing, and there's not like a ton of things right now to do when it comes to performing.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of why I'm trying to do
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
share everyone's value with each other
yeah,
in our
yeah,
respective worlds. And
yeah,
I know like a lot of performers. I've been absorbed in performing myself when when that's what's going on.
yeah. Hmm.
Um, but I mean,
Yeah.
here we are, and we get or we're made to take some time to look at things. Um,
Right, right.
but
Yep.
yeah, no, he's great. I'm planning to dig in some more because he and I only scratched the surface of what he knows with his subject matter.
Yeah, that stuff takes a long time to learn and to get good at. Um, it's really more, I mean, you learn how to measure, you learn how to do all the things. That was actually I wanted to kind of learn more about mouthpieces during this break, but I haven't, I mean, it's not that expensive to get into. The feeler gauges, you can buy all the like measuring tools for a couple $100.
Yeah,
I
I'm.
mean,
What scares me is inevitably you're gonna mess stuff up while you're learning.
right, of
Like
course. Yeah. Yeah. So what do you start to learn on?
right.
Um,
I, when I started learning, because one of my side businesses is making knives, selling knives,
mhm.
sharpening knives, and
Oh wow.
it took me a lot of like dealing with junk knives on the stones to figure out
Hmm.
technique. Uh,
Yeah.
but now I could just pull out like a stone out of my pocket and get a knife like halfway working again, just
Right.
on the fly. But yeah,
Hmm.
I think for some of these crafts, you kind of have to be prepared to destroy a lot of stuff in the learning
Yeah.
process.
Right. 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 Yeah. So,
So
but the problem with clarinet mouthpieces is that they're not. I- you could practice on like plastic mouthpieces, but yeah, eventually. I mean, I can't imagine working on like a vintage. whatever.
Yeah.
Although I can't say I've ever had much experience playing on vintage mouthpieces. I've never played on vintage mouthpieces. So, and every time I've tried one, I mean, I just haven't really, they haven't really spoken to me. Maybe it's because I
Yeah.
learned on modern mouthpieces.
Yeah, that's I mean that's such a broad topic. Like I I feel like a lot of my personal concept of clarinet was formed by listening to, like Harold Wright and a lot of these earlier
Hmm.
players, and there's a certain
Right,
personality to that sound.
right.
So I for me, I just gravitated to things like that. I did my own experimenting with getting older mouthpieces refaced. I had Brad refaced some mouthpieces for me.
Hmm.
Um, it just it's I don't know. One of the setbacks I had was like the material is already old by the time I get
Hmm.
to it.
Yep.
So like there's things like oxidation and warping that are already problems. And
Hmm.
even when you reface and you do like whatever work inside the guts, like you're still
Hmm.
dealing with something that's kind of played out already. That's why
Yeah.
I'm that's what excites me about Brad's work is now you get whatever the old material has to offer. Now you have it,
Hmm.
but it's fresh, and
Yeah.
you kind of get new mileage out of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, like a while, like I went to a music festival in Switzerland in 2001, and it was like it was a student chamber music festival.
mm,
So it was just go and, spend a couple of weeks and play some chamber music and play on a couple of concerts and get experience. And the clarinet teacher at that festival, he actually asked me. I was playing at the time. I was playing on like a handcrafted mouthpiece by a craftsman. I'm not
mm,
really going to name any names. I liked it a lot. I actually don't have that mouthpiece anymore because I let a student borrow it a long time ago and then they never returned it, which happens.
yeah,
I mean, I didn't really at the time. After that point, I didn't really play on it too much, so it didn't. I think he was getting more usage out of it
mm.
than me. We're still in touch. Maybe I could ask for it now. I'm just joking. He
Doorstep.
No, and so actually this clarinet teacher at this festival was like, well, why do you play on this handcrafted mouthpiece? Like what happens if your mouthpiece maker like dies? What are
Mm.
you gonna do then? Because this particular teacher, he only played on Caspers,
Oh yeah,
and he had his lifetime supply. Like he had five. Apparently, he told me later on we saw each other maybe last couple of years back, and he was telling me, yeah, whenever you saw me, I had like five of them left, and then I dropped one, and then one just didn't play real well, and I had it refaced, but it never quite played the same, and then I had another one, and like I was down to like two, and then that one I refaced over and over and over again, and it didn't play, and now I'm like, he's like, and then what do I do? Like I'm at the end of my playing career now. Like I don't really have a mouthpiece that I'm comfortable playing on.
yeah.
But back in the day, he was like, why don't you just? This is when I started buying Van Doren mouthpieces. Actually, it was because he was like, why don't you just buy Van Doren mouthpieces? It's not like they're going anywhere anytime soon, and you could just buy a new one every single year. And then by the time you're at the end of your career and you're like kind of drawing back things, you could have a mountain, like a stockpile of mouthpieces that you can just play on.
Yeah.
And I haven't done quite that. I haven't bought a new mouthpiece every year, but I do once about every other year. I buy one or two new mouthpieces and kind of add to my collection. And so I have almost every Van Doren mouthpiece that they make.
Oh,
I'm only missing a couple in my own collection, like in terms of I don't have a B45, I don't have a B40, I have a B40 Lyre, but I don't have any like the weird ones like the 11.6. I don't have that. I don't have all these like kind of random, but I have the M13, I have an M15, I have 5R. I mean, I
right.
think I've run the range. I have a one of the first BD4s, like right when they came out, I bought, or is it BD5? BD5 is
Hmm.
the first one that came out. So I kind of collect those.
There you go. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that argument before. Like, stick with something that's consistent and commercially available, just
Right.
in case something goes
Yeah.
haywire. I mean,
I have a colleague actually, right in this region who they dropped their mouthpiece that they've been playing on a Greg Smith for a long time, and like this person was used to that mouthpiece, and they ended up. I mean, they play a lot of concerts, and this particular person basically it was great. I'd sit next to this person a lot, and they play on this Greg Smith, and they always sound great, and then all of a sudden they drop the mouthpiece, and so what do you do?
right?
So so basically he got one of the D'Addario mouthpieces, and what's crazy is he still sounds great.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I think I don't. I mean, it doesn't sound. I mean, maybe he feels different about it because I asked him about it like after the fact. I mean, this is one of the last concerts I played before COVID, back in January, or maybe no, maybe it was like no, I don't remember. Maybe it was last November or something. It seems like we're in this kind of weird. Like the last 12 months have not really occurred.
right.
Yeah, it must have been last November, I think, actually.
The
But
ground
yeah, I was
day of
yeah. So I was thinking like, God, it sounds great. Even on, the D'Addario mouthpiece, it's like so I don't know these you can if you're a student or something, if there are students out there, like we live in an age of really, really good equipment. Like a plethora of good equipment.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think we talked about this earlier briefly. I mean, there's been a certain gap of time in between,
yeah.
but
Yeah.
um, yeah, like you're going to sound like you know,
Hmm.
assuming your whatever you pick up is comfortable enough to play and operates well. Like you're still going to sound like you for the most part.
Yeah.
You know,
Actually, between the last time we met and today, I taught like an internet lesson, or a lot of my it's like it's a lot of distance teaching right now,
mm-hmm.
and every once in a while I do this test with a student like just to because they know what I sound like because I play in lessons. So what I do is I do this little experiment where I pull out the buzziest, brightest reed in my box, and I put it on the mouthpiece, and I ask them, I say, hey, do I sound like myself? And 100% of the time, they always say, yeah, you sound the same. And I swear it's like it's the craziest. I pick the brightest reed on possible, like buzzy, edgy, and almost inevitably they're always like, yeah, it sounds fine. It doesn't sound any different. So I mean, I've been doing this. I've been doing this a long time for a long time. Just this little, not really like scientific, um, not really a scientific exploration, but just an anecdotal um, observation.
Yeah,
It's like basically ask people, hey, does this read? And then one time I was sitting in orchestra, and my one of my best friends who used to play in the orchestra with me, um, this bassoon player, and he said he was playing, and I hung up, and he was like, "Hey, what do you think about this reed?" And I'm like, I don't know what you're. It sounds like a bassoon reed. I don't know.
right. Yeah,
It sounds like a bassoon. What do you want to say? And he's like, no, what about it? I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like a bassoon reed. He's like, why don't you look at it? I look at it. It's like it's a Ligier reed. I couldn't tell the difference. So I mean, even Ligier bassoon oboe reed. Well, I don't know about the oboe reeds, but I know that the bassoon reeds at least sound like reeds.
yeah. I had
And
a
then,
similar experience. The principal bassoon where I play, he started experimenting with synthetic reeds as well, and
mhm,
sounded great. Played nailed everything he needed to nail, and
yeah.
was. But the difference was I think he was just really pleased that it whatever the outside conditions were, it still
Mhm.
did what it was gonna do. You know.
Right. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I only play on like synthetic reeds on on bass clarinet. I just can't. played cane reeds for a long time, and then they just become so. For some reason, I warp. I don't know what it is, but bass clarinet reeds really warp for
Well,
me.
there's so much like real estate on
Yeah,
that thing to go wrong. Uh,
right.
I've had
Yeah.
similar problems. Just I think that's yeah. At some point, I don't do a lot of auxiliary stuff,
Hmm.
or I haven't done a lot of auxiliary stuff lately. But I keep a Leger just as a spare along with the bass mouthpiece just in case
Yeah.
I get the call. And yeah,
Yeah.
I know what it's going to do whenever I pull it out. I
Yeah, and
tried it
bass
for E
clarinet.
flat,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like E flat's a little different. I always feel like I need that cane for some reason. I haven't quite gotten
Yeah,
comfortable.
I play a couple ups on E flat. I have well, it depends. I actually for E flat's kind of weird. I feel like I have two different setups depending on what like repertoire is. This may be like totally I don't know if it's like way off base. I don't know if people do this, but I have a Richard Hawkins mouthpiece that I use like if I'm playing something what was the last time I played E flat. For some reason I've played Symphony Fantastique a lot.
Hmm.
Um and I've played Ravel Piano Concerto a few times. And I always feel like for like the Ravel piano, I have this B44 E flat mouthpiece that's like really brash and bright and loud.
Yeah.
And then I have this Richard Hawkins mouthpiece, which is like really nice and beautiful, and it sounds like a clarinet.
Yeah. It sounds like a clarinet. Yeah.
And so depending on like what I'm playing, um, I'll use one or the other. I don't know if people do that. That's just something I've done figured
That
out over the years.
that makes sense. That sounds like something I need to do because same thing. I've had kind of half and half. Like some things where you really need to stick out like a sore thumb, you know,
Yeah.
or so to
Yep.
speak, I guess.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
right, right.
sometimes
A
where
little
like
bit more characteristically E flat.
yeah, now you got my wheels turning. Maybe I'll buy more
And then
stuff.
something like Mahler, if you're playing Mahler, like I played Mahler 2 last year, the first E flat clarinet part, which by the way, as a side note, if you got to play Mahler 2, you want to play the second E flat clarinet part.
Hmm.
Don't play the first one. I'll tell you why. So, first and second clarinet parts are hard in that piece, right? The first E flat clarinet part's got all the solos. The second E flat doubles and doesn't play much at all.
Yeah.
And then the bass clarinet has a bunch of solos, and you get the best part. If you want to you want to get the most bang for your buck. You want to play the second E. That's the most economical part to play. And the internet hates me. This has been a constant issue actually since we
Hmm.
started. This has been yeah, this is not absolutely uncommon, and we've both been very frustrated by it. The internet is just not a reliable thing
Yeah.
here for some reason.
You said it's
I blame the monopolies.
fiber.
Yeah, it's fiber. Okay, so supposedly it's fiber. It's fast when it's working, but then I'm suspecting it's more. I think it's a hardware problem.
Hmm.
I'm starting to think it might be the router that they supplied us with.
Well,
That might be something I'm gonna check into before the next semester starts.
whoever's watching, maybe we can spin this into a sponsorship opportunity.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, but anyways, yeah, E flat. Um,
Yeah,
whatever.
I was talking about Mahler too. You want to play the second E flat part. That's what it is. It's very economical and um, it's a the first E flat part's actually you only play E flat and it's stressful. So if you like to make less money, more stressed, play that part.
There you go. I've come to appreciate like I we I'm sure you've experienced this. There's kind of that drive to I think the drive to win auditions makes people value
Hmm.
certain spots more. It's like, you know what? I've
Yeah.
been I've been playing I've been comfortably playing second clarinet in my group around here for quite a
Hmm.
while. like I get to play, I get to enjoy it's the same
Yeah.
repertoire altogether, and I don't have the stress of having to prepare like all the major solos most of the time.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anything, I still get weirded out seeing the occasional C transposition, but
Mhm.
that's just normal clarinet work.
Well, I'll say it's first and second clarinet, like the skill set slightly, it's a different skill set. Second clarinet, completely different skill set altogether. And I mean, I enjoy both. I definitely am way more relaxed when I'm playing second clarinet because I do that in Savannah Philharmonic, and then in Augusta I play principal. So I really do enjoy. There are aspects to both positions
Mm-hmm.
that are enjoyable, but second clarinet is definitely a very comfortable. It's nice. It's a pretty low stress environment, barring the occasional. I don't know. You play Mozart. If you play the Mozart Requiem, there's a big exposed second clarinet part in that, and and then there's a few other little second clarinet things that you have to be
Yeah,
kind of aware of.
stuff
But
that's like highly independent of the other parts, and you know,
yeah, it's
soloistic in its own
those
way.
can. Yeah. But really, it's not like other than that. And most of the time, it's fairly benign. And so I kind of just relax and enjoy it. You can relax and enjoy a little bit more. Whereas first clarinet, there's a lot. And also, I always find that the the mental load of playing second clarinet is very much different. You're just listening to your principal clarinetist, whoever's sitting to your left. You're just listening to them, trying to match them, trying to play, and then actually listening out a little bit more. But if you're in the principal spot, you're listening.
Yeah,
You have to listen a
all
lot
over.
more, and your responsibility a bit more challenge. It's a little bit more challenging. You're listening more to you have to listen to all the other wind players, and then also listen even further to the string sections.
Right, right.
And
Like I can't remember which rep it was, but I remember like being very connected to the violas and cellos for
mhm,
certain things because they're doubled a lot for whatever. I wish I remembered now, but whatever we were
yeah,
playing, it was a lot of similar voicing, and you had to match, and there were a lot of moments where we had to take some time and hammer out little intonation things here and there just to match
yeah.
sections. Um,
Yeah, it ends up being more. There's more mental load, more to take care of, more things to be um, aware of.
yeah,
So it's a little the mental work for second clarinet. I mean, just in a different way. So I always enjoy that. I don't really enjoy. I don't enjoy. I know I play bass clarinet. I consider myself a bass clarinet survivor.
yeah,
Um, I don't own a bass clarinet, so I always have to find one.
yeah.
And it's kind of like, yeah,
I'm in the
playing on other
same
people and
boat
playing
with
on other,
that.
yeah, yeah. It's for me right now. It's like more of like they're just so expensive. The instruments are expensive, and the aftermarket is still expensive. And so I think maybe if I had gotten one when I was younger, I would
Yeah,
have it would have been more it would have been more like of a realistic thing. Oh, I got one. I got it when I was young. It's fine. I have it. But now that I'm not young, um, or not super young, like it
slightly
doesn't
slightly
really.
less young. Although,
Slightly less young. Yeah, I'm like I don't know. The bass clarinet seems like well maybe I don't play it enough really.
yeah, I enjoy it on occasion, and same deal. Like I have the mouthpiece floating around, but I
Hmm.
was if I need to play it, I need to track one down and
Right.
hope to God it works long enough to complete the concert. But
Yeah. I
um, I don't know. I think it's certain rep that I enjoy playing it more. Like I did some bass for opera, like, and
Mhm.
that was pretty satisfying. I think because the way the writing is, like, I don't know, it was more personally satisfying to me. I haven't
Yeah.
always had the same experience in more like in other orchestral rep, let's say.
Yeah, the last thing I played, well, I played only a few handful of concerts or like things in the last several months, but we did do a concert in Augusta Symphony a few weeks back. Actually, I guess it's more than a few weeks. It was in September, or was it October? October? I don't know. Maybe it was last month. We did a reduced version of Mahler 4.
Mm.
There's a version for 27 musicians, and so it's single winds, and you have to play the clarinet part is really, really. I've never played this version. I only know it exists, and then we played it. And it's the clarinet part has okay, so in the actual piece there's E flat clarinet, there's regular clarinet, there's bass clarinet. Well, you have to play all of the it's so this part has the E flat clarinet stuff in the clarinet part, but it's all transposed. So you're
Huh.
playing the E flat parts transposed, and then you have to play the bass clarinet solos. So there's that one really iconic bass clarinet solo at the end of Muller 4 when the whole piece ends, and and then there's a little spot in the first movement where there's some exposed bass clarinet. So you have to take a bass clarinet on stage, you play the whole piece, and you get to the very end, and you have to. I haven't played the bass clarinet in like 35, 40 minutes.
Just fire it right
And
up
then you have to
after.
play and then you have to play this iconic solo. Like it is the main tune from the fourth movement that the clarinet starts the whole movement out on. With the soprano, the tune before the soprano sings it. You have to play that on the bass clarinet. And typically, your bass clarinet player is sitting there having been playing bass clarinet.
Right. You're
But if you're
ready to
playing this
go.
particular part, you have to pick the instrument up cold. And then it's crazy because you have to play and then there's a spot where you pass off your note to the English horn. Player has not been playing English horn either, so you've got these two auxiliary instruments that have been sitting and they're
Yeah.
cold.
You got to thread the needle.
It was really wild. I mean, it was really stressful. I was the most stressed and not having performed in like 6 months.
Right.
And like this is what you're asking somebody to do. I remember thinking like this is just I was about sick. I was really sick to my stomach.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That sounds chilling. Hearing it.
It was, I mean, I went, it was fine. No, actually, no. It was fine. But I'll tell you, I was like, the whole time I was like, don't squeak, don't squeak, don't squeak. Whatever you do, don't squeak. You can't squeak. Like, it's like I pick up the bass clarinet. It's like all I could think, don't squeak, don't squeak. It's like you can mess up. You can like miss, you can like not, a note doesn't have to speak super well, but you can't squeak.
God. Yeah.
You don't want to ruin the whole symphony.
That's yeah. Talk about pressure. Good grief.
That was one of my friends at Northwestern. He he got we played a piece in the wind ensemble whenever we were grad students there, and he got put on the contra bass clarinet part, contra alto, and he didn't squeak, and it sounded fine. And you know what he ended up playing for the rest of his time at Northwestern? The contrabass or the contralto clarinet because the conductor knew that he wouldn't squeak. Like he wouldn't mess up the soft part.
Oh God.
So that's
Well, I mean, good for him, I
I
guess.
know, right? No, that's not good. The contrabass. I've only played a contrabass like one time.
I don't think I can't remember the last time I had hands on one of those, let alone put any air into one. It's just terrifying. But I know. I mean, I've seen them out a lot because I did a little time at Northern Illinois, and they
Mhm.
do a lot. Like they have their yearly clarinet event, their clarinet cornucopia.
Mhm.
So they always do up like big clarinet ensemble stuff.
Mm.
So sometimes there'll be like multiple, like whoever's coming from whatever faraway school, they'll bring all their weird auxiliary clarinets and put them all together. Um, I mean, it was. I, I'm glad, and some people are like really into those things. Like people get excited,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, I bought my own alto." Like, I mean, that if you're into that, great. It just, I never. That was never. I don't know. That never struck a chord with me really. Like the auxiliary, like E flat and bass is about as far as I got excited about. You
Right.
know.
I I'm gonna share a little. I've actually never played an alto clarinet, but I did push. I no, I take that back. No, I have played it since. I was gonna. This I have to clarify this. So there's an alto clarinet. I teach at Western Carolina, and we there was an alto clarinet in the studio there, and they wanted to get it fixed. So I worked. There was some things that were wrong with it. They weren't working. So they sent them to the shop, and I was fixing this alto clarinet and whatever. I took it, put it together, and I started playing. And I was like, oh man, this is kind of fun. This is like I don't. This is really strange. Like I've really. I
Yeah.
mean, I only played alto basset horn one time. I had a lesson in undergraduate with Ron Aufmann on basset horn because I took a quarter of lessons with him while I was in Cincinnati, and yeah, and we did a lesson on basset horn, and but that was my only experience with the like alto family of
Yeah.
clarinets.
I I don't get it, but more power to whoever's out there who's really into that.
They're fun. I don't know. I was like, I don't want to admit this, but this is really fun. This is a fun
Yeah.
instrument.
Well, I mean, to me, it's the same kind of fun as like occasionally riding a zip line or driving a
Yes,
go kart. Like, I don't want to do that every day,
I know.
and it feels a little odd when I do it. But I will accept the occasional unusual fun. Um,
Yeah, I one time in orchestra, I tried to convince the conductor that we were doing Mozart Requiem, and I wanted to do the one with basset horns. And for some reason, it ended up not working. But I was trying to convince them to rent a couple of basset horns to use, and they're not super expensive. I mean, schools rent them out, and
yeah,
I was yeah, I really wanted to do that version because I mean, why not?
yeah. Well, how do you? Having said that, like, do you have any opinion on the people who like really want to play Mozart concerto on like those like not their A
The
clarinet?
basset clarinet,
Yeah,
like
whatever.
basset clarinet, like the extensions.
Yeah,
I think they're cool. I would totally play like a Mozart concerto on if they called me to play Mozart concerto with the orchestra next season, I would probably at least investigate the possibility. Um, because there are people, I mean, people have extensions. You can get the extensions, but I don't know. Like I would have to, because I play on top. I don't know if there's not a Tosca Bassett extension that I know of.
yeah, because there's the extra vent stuff down there, right?
Well, there's the thumb, yeah, the thumb keys that go down to low C, and yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
yeah,
mechanics of it would be a little different, probably.
yeah, you really it only gives you the extra low C down to low C, so you have a few extra notes. Um, but yeah, I think it would be worth exploring at least, just for the experience.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, I don't go around playing 50. It's not like Martin Frost who goes around. He plays like 100 Mozart clarinet concertos a year or whatever, some crazy number.
or get your riding on roller skates or whatever. Like that's
But
he's a great player, but like that's the one thing I remember. I don't know why,
yeah,
but it's branded in my head. He's playing clarinet, riding around his roller skates. Like,
yeah. Well, like he's apparent. I mean, I've never met the guy, but like, I mean, I've only heard his playing. It's pretty incredible, and people I know that have heard his playing like live say that it's just mind blowing.
yeah,
And whenever you're like that, I think that you have to do things that are like maybe push the art form a little bit more. Like you're not just relegated to doing a solid Mozart concerto. You have to like do more than that.
yeah,
He has to do more and like in order to feel fulfilled. Like playing a vanilla Mozart clarinet concerto for like me would be like that's like I've done it played it one time with orchestra. You don't get to do it that often, right? It's not like something you do all the time, even if you're playing in like a regional orchestra or something. Um, Not playing a ton of concerts with one orchestra a year, but um, yeah, but like if you're doing, I think for him it would be, if you're doing it 50 times, you have to do things to keep you interested.
Yeah.
Um, Play crazy concertos, and nobody, yeah, nobody's gonna hire me to play. Nobody's gonna hire normal clarinet players to play like the crazy clarinet concertos. The world premieres.
Yeah.
It's just the
It,
fact.
yeah, I think you're right. Like that certain type of player, that's their wheelhouse. Like it doesn't. I would love to be able to. I would love to have that level of skill, but I don't.
Hmm.
It like yeah, it wouldn't be the same if I'm not like really personally invested in it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it has me thinking like, what am I? What do I like to do? What am I more invested in? I
Right.
feel like um, I think we talked about this earlier. Like when the opportunity is open again to try to dip into more um, chamber type
Hmm.
playing, some at least something different from orchestra or
Like big
like
ensemble.
yeah, even like I haven't had a whole lot of time with the wind quintet, but I kind
Hmm.
of want to branch away from that too. Like I know there's great rep for that, but I feel like exploring just different stuff. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I talked to
I was gonna say. Yep.
sorry,
Oh no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
um to Dr. Denise Gainey. She's at UIB or Alabama
Hmm.
Birmingham. I think she's ICA president now. I can't remember,
Hmm.
but she's got some fun projects like her her duet ensemble, and then she's done stuff with like trumpet and piano and clarinet, like
Hmm.
kind of interesting. Like I want to play with instrumentation. I think when I get the opportunity, or when I can make the opportunity, let's say.
Right. Yeah, I did a lot of my chamber music experience. I didn't get a lot of. I haven't had a lot of woodwind quintet experience. My only woodwind quintet experience was basically like on the job
Mm,
when Augusta would have a woodwind quintet concert, and or like I think my very first, because I didn't play in one in undergraduate or graduate school, or I did, but it was very briefly, and we didn't cover much rep, and we
yeah.
didn't stay together for very long because it's hard to get five people with the same goals and
Right.
intentions in school, right? Everybody's got their own little thing going on, and nobody's really unified.
Yeah.
In like in a professional like setting, everybody's unified by the fee. You know what I mean? The concert fee, right? Do you want to play a concert? Yes. Do you want to play a woodwind concert? Yes. You know, it's everybody shows up because they're getting paid, and then they do the concert. So it's like, but the difference is I never got to play like Nielsen Quintet or Hindemith Quintet or
Mm,
Poulenc Sextet. I never got to play these pieces like in school and learn them. My first experience with those pieces were like playing on a recital series with some of my colleagues. I played the Nielsen Quintet for the first time with a colleague who he was in the Marine Band for like 10 years, and he was the former horn professor at the University of South Carolina, and he since passed away. But he played the Nielsen Quintet like 50 times on tour with the Marine Band Woodwind Quintet when he was
wow.
in the Marine Band. And like these, he doesn't need to rehearse the Nielsen Quintet.
Yeah.
And my other colleagues had played them a lot too. And so I am this like totally. I was just like a while back. I was still, I think, in my late 20s. Never played the Nielsen Quintet, and they wanted to like show up and rehearse it the night before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think the other thing, I think we played a Muchinsky Quintet on that concert too.
Mm,
But it was like really, I was not. that piece is hard. The Nielsen, it's not an easy piece, and we did a couple rehearsals and then performed it the next night.
Wow.
It was yeah, and then another time is the same thing with the Poulenc sextet. Like the people I was working with, it was my first season in symphony, and they had like literally all just played it together like a year ago, a year before, like the year before, and I had never played it. I had never played it. I had never worked on it. Like it was all new to me.
Right. Let
Same
alone
deal. Yeah,
with
same
them.
deal. Like show up, rehearse it and perform it. And I'm like, I had one rehearsal at this. So I always got that's my woodwind quintet experience. It's not like the typical like mine is just kind of throw me into the deep end and like every time I do woodwind quintet it's the same way because I never learned the repertoire.
Right.
I just kind of have to learn it still even now.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to see how the music world responds. Let's say
Hmm.
after, like into the new year and beyond, because I think other than coming back to our like the standard kind of orchestra seasons, like everyone's going to be itchy one way or another to break out. I'm hoping to see more of these smaller projects and that kind of stuff emerge. I'm
Right.
certainly planning my own. So
Yeah. I was talking with some colleagues a couple months ago. Well, it's not really right now is not good to like plan concerts. I think it's not super safe. I mean, we're obviously in like the third wave in this country or the fourth. I don't know, like I can't even count. Maybe we never even left the first wave. But it's the numbers of COVID is actually worse than it was when everything kind of shut down in April and May. When the actual legitimate shutdowns were happening, the numbers are actually worse now. And so they're trying to stay open and trying to present things, but you just can't a bunch of room together. It's just not. So I was talking with some colleagues. We were going to try and do a chamber concert, start a little chamber series up in the mountains in North Carolina. But like, when do you start that? Like, what do you do? It's
yeah,
like, when is the safe point when you can get people in a room together?
yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, those kind of details. I mean that's just gonna come out when we have more
yep.
positive
Hmm.
positive information about the circumstances. But I think
Yep.
now is a good time to lay down all the logistical planning of like how these things are going to operate, what you want to play, maybe,
Hmm.
um, and then ideally those plans are ready to hit the like rubber meets the road when the road
Yeah.
is clear to start going again.
Yeah, you're like, I'm doing this thing now. So I think, yeah, we were talking about a program that involved basically it was like the program that we were talking about was like strings and winds, like an oboe, clarinet, and string trio,
Mm,
like five people. And there's like the Crucell quartets for clarinet and string trio. There's like some oboe quartets, Mozart, and then there's a lot of string trio repertoire, and you can do a lot with that. Like that was like one of our ideas was to do something like that because and also you're limited. Like you can pick and choose. Like you can get strong players for each position,
mm,
um, and present something that's artistically viable.
yeah,
That's like it's a real product that people would enjoy listening to. So I think that's another thing is like when everything starts back, I think that's going to be a key. I think is that you have to have music that people really do enjoy listening to.
yeah. I I'm not sure how like I can't speak for
Hmm.
groups you've played for. Like I know for me, I've gotten this sense of like the ensemble feels responsible for educating the audience. So there's
Hmm.
kind of this like spoonful of sugar mentality. Like
Yeah.
we'll do some of the, movie scores or like kind of popular
Right.
classical stuff, and then here's this like kind of heavier hitting, like the meat and potatoes type stuff in the middle.
Hmm.
But if depending on how it's done, you know, you scare some people away, or I've seen people like they get upset because they feel like we're selling out by playing more popular stuff. I don't know. Like maybe your experience has been
Yeah.
different, but I
Well,
just feel
they
that.
well they have like the problem is I know I've noticed because I've been operating in the Southeast that the audiences are much more conservative.
Mm,
Like they want to hear certain, I mean, at least from my perspective and the people that I've come in contact with, they really do want to hear the heavy hitting classical, you know, the big composers,
yeah,
Beethoven, Brahms, etc. Like the stuff that we play all the time and that classical musicians are kind of not bored with because you can never really be bored with great art. Um, but the idea that we need to be pushing more boundaries in like other ways, right? More diverse programming, this type of thing, and I think that I think that you, I think I've had this conversation with a lot of my colleagues that like really hyper contemporary music, like well contemporary sounding music,
mm,
not if it doesn't really sound like music, like an audience down here regionally is not very receptive to
yeah,
super hyper contemporary sounding music. They just aren't. Um, I played. Oh yeah, I did a recital tour a couple of years ago, and I played this Mio sonatina. Do you know this piece?
I'm not sure.
Mio is like kind of light and French sounding, and usually it's really nice. But this piece is quite atonal. It's not atonal, but it's not tonal in your regular. And
Yeah,
I got like the audience didn't really enjoy. I mean, the rest of the program was quite tonal and easy to listen to. This piece was like a little edgy in terms of tonality, and
mm,
people were like normal people were just not digging it.
yeah,
They were not having that piece. They were like I got comments like, "Why are you playing this modern music?" I'm like, "This is
that's
not modern. Are you kidding me? This is like the early 20th century. We're like a full 100 years after this." You know, I don't know what
yeah,
to say. So like that's been my experience with like audiences, and I think it's regional, and it also has to do with like the cultural, like kind of the cultural education or the cultural, the general cultural
yeah.
level of an area.
We've we've had similar stuff, but like there's the age of the audience is a component too.
Hmm.
Like, um, I mean, we've gotten a lot of people like bust in from the local retirement communities
Hmm.
for a lot of our concerts, and they like hearing a certain type of
Yeah.
rep. So I mean, yeah, I've seen those moments myself. Like there's something that's a little less traditionally tonal, and sometimes it comes off great, and then sometimes it's just like the proverbial crickets in the
Yeah,
audience.
you have to, yeah, you really have to know your audience. And so sometimes you can play, it's crazy. I've played like a Brahms sonata like on a recital for an audience, and the comment was, "Well, I really like the piece, but it's about 15 minutes too long." Or
Yeah.
whatever, because
Oh
they're
yeah.
long. The sonatas, they're
Yeah.
not short pieces,
Hmm.
right? And like that's another thing. Like, oh, it's a long piece. Well, okay, so I don't know what to do about that. I can't make it any shorter.
Yeah. I mean that's because everything's in these little like minute or less sound bites nowadays. You hop on. Like for my other businesses, I have a TikTok account,
Hmm.
and that's
Hmm.
like the longest you can go for things on there is a minute tops.
Ah.
So you get these like sometimes 5 or 10 second videos of like somebody blurts out their talking point of whatever they're talking about,
Hmm.
and then it's just gone. Um, it's I'm curious because yeah, everything we've done is like a longer format. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I
even
mean, this
single
stuff is
movement,
designed, yeah.
like
Yeah, the
single
stuff.
movements of stuff is just maybe 4 minutes is a short piece for in some circumstances. But then you sit down for the traditional orchestra concert. That's your evening. You show up. You have your repertoire. Maybe have your post concert festivities. Like you're planning for like that's what you're doing.
Right.
For the day. I wonder
Yeah.
how it will cope in a generation or an age of kind of that immediate gratification, the shorter formats.
Yeah, definitely definitely a re-education that has to happen. Not a re-edu That's kind of a not a re-education. What I mean is a reintroduction to like form.
Yeah,
Like that music is a thing. It takes time. I don't know. I used to think like whenever I was younger and when I got really hooked on classical music, like whenever I was like 4 years old or something, and I first heard a Mahler symphony, I was like, this is incredible. I can't believe these pieces are so long. They're just really long pieces of music. And then like a pop song that I thought was pretty cool, like a popular song on the radio that I thought was pretty cool, and then I would think, that's it?
right.
Like you're done? Like we heard the verse and we heard the chorus and then we heard that three times and that was it. And the verse was 30 seconds long and the chorus was 20 seconds long.
Yeah,
And it just repeated. And I used to think like this is after I discovered I was like because you listen to like a Mozart wind serenade and there's a lot of exploration that happens like
mhm.
the colors, the sonorities, the tonality. There's just a lot of things that happen in a piece like that. And I remember thinking that as a young, I was like, I just want to hear, I remember thinking about about popular music. I was thinking, I just want to hear, that interesting thing. I want to hear it more because that's the way this other music is happening.
Yeah,
I get to listen to more of it in a more developed way. And I didn't know it at the time, but like literally that's development, right? Within music. That's the way the pieces are structured.
right.
And so you get this, you get your exposition, you get your development, you get your coda, and your development is where all the interesting things happens, you know. And I didn't realize it at the time when I was like, 14 years old because I'd never had music theory, but that's exactly what was happening. And in popular music, you don't get development
Right.
oftentimes. You get just this catchy tune. It gets repeated over and over and over again. Never really changes. The most thing you may get is a key change.
Yeah,
That's your development, is a key change.
kind of simple surface gratification.
Yeah, and then after a while, I feel like it gets maybe people will get to the point where they get tired of that and they want to. I don't know. I
Yeah,
know
well,
that like the only popular music I really listen to a lot. I mean, I listen to some Radiohead. Like,
yeah. Even then, like it's popular music that fits the type of complexity and attention span that you already have from what else you.
exactly. And other people may think that that's like they can't listen to it.
Yeah, or what I've seen too for music like that, people like it and they can't always articulate why,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
And then for me, if I'm keyed into the teaching moment, that's like where I can bridge into those ideas of like, hey, this realm of music has been doing that kind of stuff for quite a while. Maybe you can kind of look into that. If you like this and what they're doing, maybe maybe try
Yeah,
to.
there's a level of complexity that exists in music that does not exist in the popular like the popular consumption of music. Complexity just isn't a thing, and it's not a thing like long form articles. I found myself I think like reading a novel. I used to read a lot, and lately, well, the last few years I haven't read too much, but it's like something that I thought I would get back into with like the quarantines and
Yeah, all
stuff.
the
But I
tourism.
find but I find my attention span, and I think it's just we get used to something. We get used to this short snippets of things, and we don't. And it's like a muscle, right? And those
Right.
muscles atrophied over time. Like your attention span is a muscle, or it's like a muscle. You have to exercise it. In order to sit down and read for an hour, you really need to be able to focus for an hour.
Yeah.
So,
The I've had problems with that. I think it's directed my choice of reading material
hmm
because like I know like when you're in school and you're forced to read something,
hmm
like it's a different thing. But if it's a book with a topic I'm really interested in, I don't do a lot of fiction reading.
hmm
Um, but so with what I know about my attention span, like if I'm really absorbed in the topic, I could sit and knock out a long book in like a day or two,
hmm
because I have that drive for that, whatever it's presenting. I think if somebody told me I have to read that same book, it's gonna sit on my table for like a year because
Yep.
I think I think I also have problems with authority.
I
Um,
I think a lot. I mean, I do too. I was always the same way, actually, growing up. If somebody told me to do something, I was like, probably not. But if I'm doing it of my own accord, like all of a sudden, like I have some ownership,
yeah.
right? And I
Uh,
think that's one of the reasons why music spoke to me is actually is because it's something I was doing out of my own power. I wasn't. Nobody was coercing me.
mhm.
Nobody was. I mean, I guess I was lucky enough that my parents, could afford to give me clarinet lessons. Right? Um, that was the big thing is they could afford to give me an hour, 45 minutes to an hour clarinet lesson every week, and go take my clarinet lesson and get yelled at and
Yeah, yes.
go home and lick my wounds and practice and then go back the next week and yeah.
But like that's you know the regardless of the problems with authority, I think that experience like and the ownership you feel because when you do what they tell you and something changes, like
hmm
it connects you to that. I think like it's that's what it took for me to accept certain authority in my life as I was
hmm
developing. Like I go back to Cal, for instance. Like the first time I encountered Cal, he was like he was described as like a drill instructor for clarinet, and
hmm
he had driven people away from his studio. Like there was all these like rumors that he'd send people off in tears or that people just quit in a huff. Like um, I think what made the difference for me was that when I did what he told me to do, it worked, and it
hmm
made it improved something that I needed to improve. Like I've worked with other teachers who try to take that approach, but they don't always present advice that's like as immediately useful, and it just
hmm
seems like there's a lot of yelling for its own sake or to try to
Right.
reinforce a power dynamic as opposed to actually
Or like
helping.
yeah, intimidate.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Either scare somebody into getting better. Like you can't. I've never tried to scare students. I don't think that that's a useful thing. You don't want them to be frightened of learning.
right, yeah,
And that's been my philosophy is I'm not also a person. I don't really just the energy is just not well used.
right. I think
Yeah.
in turn with my experience with Cal too, like and
Mm,
most of his other long term students will say this, like he would have kind of a like a brash exterior to some extent, but like he was always uh very caring and very invested. If he
mhm,
knew you were serious about studying, like he was very human as well.
mhm.
And I think yeah, I whatever people are teaching. I know this is a clarinet show, but you know, so much depends on the condition of the teacher and how they come to the table for the student. I
Right.
find myself I'm not always I'm occasionally abrasive because I tend to be direct, like, and sometimes people don't respond as positively, and I have to read and scale that back, depending on who
Right.
I'm
Well,
working with.
yeah. I think that's another thing is you have to, yeah, you got to tell who you're working with, like know your audience, right?
Right.
Is this a student who can really stand up to direct feedback? Or I always try to be direct, but I don't know, like lately it's been hard because of distance teaching is really difficult. Teaching over, I did some long distance teaching back when I lived in New York City, um, but I never enjoyed it, and I still don't enjoy it. I don't. I can't. I feel like when you're not in the room with somebody, it's very very different. I don't
Yeah.
know why.
It's highly limited. I mean, my perspective is this is an art that's meant to communicate to other people, and
Hmm.
how are you going to do that if you're not with other people? Like, it can't, you can't do it 100%. Like, there's
Yeah.
things, like I've dealt with this with martial arts distance learning, because that's just another
Hmm.
thing. Like, you kind of have to
Yeah,
be,
that's very physical.
yeah, it's physical, hands-on. There's even things like Tai Chi where you don't, like, it's an internal art. You can mimic moves to a certain point, but a teacher
Hmm.
has to be there to kind of like here's what's happening, here's what your body has to be doing, and you don't always like visually see it. Um,
Right.
so yeah, I mean, that's part of why I took on that martial arts um, aesthetic for this channel. It was like I see a lot
Hmm.
of connecting elements.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, at some point, I think if you're gonna do distance learning, like try to do high volume distance learning, perhaps there needs to be a planned in person outlet at some point.
Yeah.
Like, here's
Right.
our live studio event, like once or twice a year or whatever. So you have to actually be in the physical presence of your
Hmm.
teacher.
Yeah. It's
Circumstances
yep.
permitting, of course, but
Right. Right now, I've been doing a hybrid approach. I think like at Brevard College, they have handled COVID pretty well. They had like 3 cases a few weeks back, and they shut the whole campus down.
hmm,
Like everybody's distance, they've had basically very few cases. They've basically handled it very well. They test every single student every week. Um, Western Carolina, they've done pretty good job too. I think none of my students have caught it. I've done about probably there. I've done there's like a little bit of more room. Like generally, they want you on campus teaching, but in these circumstances, I've been doing like maybe like half and half, right? Just to limit my exposure,
yeah,
my own safety.
right.
I mean, you have to think about that. You have to think about your own safety. You can't play the clarinet anymore if you're not alive,
Yeah.
um,
Good point.
right? So yeah, you can't make art. You're done, and it's really just honestly your health is the most important thing. I like right now, it's like the goal is to just not catch this. That's it. That's the goal. Like survive whatever's happening, and just kind of chalk it up to like it is what it is, and just try and get through it the best you can. But the goal is health, like staying healthy. Um, yeah. So, especially, I mean, down here is kind of a hot spot right now. It's like not
Mhm.
great. So I've been doing a little bit, but luckily it wasn't this semester. I've been doing like some in like basically half and half. So in person, basically every other week on average, and then a distance lesson, in the other weeks. As much as I don't like doing the distance lessons, it's it's hard to teach. It's hard. I don't think that a lot of things like articulation and stuff come through. You know.
Yeah. the just audio quality, video lag, or things like internet just dropping outright.
Yeah, right. And it happens to everybody. And the internet, like on campuses, isn't super reliable. So it's a 50% chance. Like it's either my internet or it's their internet,
Yeah.
right? There's two different sides to that equation, and it's not always 100% reliable. So there's that. And then, well, does the student have a microphone? Or are they just using their phone?
Right.
You can't hear anything if they're just using a phone. And then not only that, but like I have students who really can't afford to invest in audio equipment, right? Like it's really not feasible for them to spend $150 on a microphone.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me, in your earlier auditioning days, did you ever have to do like the submit a recording type auditions before they invited you, or
I
like,
did for a few, yeah, I did a few of those, but the problem was is back then equipment hadn't really, it's not really where it is now.
yeah, it's like I did when I first started seeing those, like, submit a recording, like, well, I don't know anyone with a recording studio, and all I have is like my little like stereo tape recorder or like
Yeah.
the early early electronic like stuff that would record a quality MP3 for you or whatever. Like it just
Hmm.
wasn't there. um you know I mean, now, God, it's so fortunate. Like if you know what you're looking at, like I have this USB mic I'm using for this kind of stuff, and it's
Hmm.
relatively painless as long as I don't have it turned up too far in one extreme. You know,
Right.
um, I yeah, to for something that involves so much more like sonic nuance, I it would be hard, a lot more difficult to deal
Yeah.
with. Um,
Right. Well, I'm back, I guess whenever um, I realized early on, maybe around 2008, 2009, that I was never going to be able to afford a recording engineer to help me make these tapes.
yeah,
So I decided instead of hiring a recording engineer, I would just learn how to do it myself. So I bought, I think, I bought like a couple of nice microphones, and I got a nice, um, like, they didn't have like audio interfaces. They were just coming out really. They weren't great. So I was using a mixing board into a mini disc
oh
to
wow,
capture everything. So I was using a couple of really nicer microphones into a nice soundboard, and then running that into a mini disc player, which then I was
mini
using, kind of
disc, yeah,
extracting that audio, right, to make digital recordings. And then shortly thereafter, like they started coming out with like the Focusrites and the different audio interfaces. Um, and then I got one of those, and so I kind of learned how to do all this stuff just on my own. So every recording basically that I've done has been me. I've produced it. Like video productions, audio production, everything.
yeah,
Because I just knew it would save me money. Like if I could learn how to do it just good enough for what I needed.
right,
It did need to be like the video doesn't need to be super fancy. So I use that a lot, and it's like every video or every recording that I have like up on my website or wherever, like I produced all of that.
yeah,
Um, and now I just bought, actually, if you're the blue microphones, do you know those? They
yeah,
make a
yeah.
USB micro. That's what I'm using. I'm using a blue microphone, but they sound great. They're up higher end microphones, like the baby bottle sounds really good on clarinet.
Hmm.
By the way, if you're looking for a clarinet mic,
What's what's the price point for that?
they're $400.
Okay,
This is not super expensive. Microphones can be really expensive, and then they can be like not like $100.
yeah,
This is
yeah,
kind of in that, like, not super cheap, but it's a really nice microphone, and I think it sounds great. And the clarinet's kind of a hard instrument to record.
yeah. I was kind of wondering about that because, like, part of why I bought this, I have a Samson,
Hmm.
is a G-Track Pro.
Hmm.
It's kind of the competitor to the Yeti Blue. It's like
Hmm.
sort of in that wheelhouse. it's really geared towards, like, there's inputs so you can plug in electric guitar, that kind of,
Hmm.
um, but it seemed a little more geared toward music, and like that class of USB mics seems to have like a decent kind of automatic preset curve to
Hmm.
whatever you're recording. But yeah, I kind of wondered, like, with the way clarinet sound is, like, what what's the most painless equipment I can buy that does it some justice? Um,
That for me, I was really impressed. The first thing I made, I just did a little sample to see what it sounded like when I just bought this microphone actually over the summer because I knew I was going to be doing like I kind of like I felt like you know what I might be doing more recording things. I may be doing I don't know what but I'm going to need something that I like.
yeah,
Like I'm going to need something that and I want to produce some things for my own for myself and um maybe make some and I've actually used it a couple times. I've done a few like, you know, tutorial videos like for various high schools.
hmm,
Like here's how you play the All-State Etude.
yep, yep,
That
yep.
kind of stuff. And so I've done a couple of those this fall and I kind of knew I was going to have to do that. And I also like I wanted an option for something a little bit higher quality for teaching and but that in that microphone I've really it really sounds really good.
It's also a USB mic, like, just,
No, it's we have to have an audio interface. It's an
oh,
XLR.
okay, okay.
Yeah, it's an XLR large diaphragm condenser microphone.
So,
Um,
um, did you already own an interface to use with that, or did you?
I actually I did at one point, and then I didn't have the equipment for various reasons, so I just kind of had to reboot my audio gear.
Okay,
So I got the exact same actually. It's just this. This is not. Wait, maybe I shouldn't. There's no ad. This is. We don't want to add. There's. It's just a Focusrite.
okay,
Um, there's. I'm not endorsing a product. But it's a nice gear. It works really well. It has two XLR inputs, and but they make a lot. There's a lot of brands out there that make good ones. But
yeah,
that's the one I have the experience with, and it sounds really good on the clarinet. The clarinet. It does it justice, and I've never been really happy. Every time I hear a recording of myself, it's like I don't really feel like it's super accurate.
yeah.
If that makes sense. I mean, the closest thing I played on a colleague last year, or is it? Yeah, last year. He produced a CD of all of his original music. He's a composer, and so he produced a CD, um, and we played a duo, a clarinet bassoon duo, which is really hard, by the way. It's
Mm.
the name of the CD is I'll give him a, it's called Carte Blanche. It's a bassoon. His name is Reed Hanna. He's a composer, very talented composer, and but yeah, produced this CD last year, and they used a ribbon microphone on for like the part that I play or for the clarinet. I think they used
Mhm.
ribbon microphones on everything, but ribbon microphones are really expensive and they're very delicate. They break very easily. So, um, but usually the ribbon microphone sounds great on clarinet, but they're expensive and they're really fragile.
Yeah, I can't handle that. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you're, I guess, if that's what you need to do, like, you get you get what works best.
Right. And so, but this microphone, this blue microphone sounds really close. It's very it's a great clarinet mic. So that's the only
Cool.
secret that I have about recording yourself.
Hey, every bit helps. I'll be looking
Hmm.
into that now myself, because I know, I had planned to do my own projects at some point. Um,
Yeah.
well, and if I can remember, send me the info for that recording. I'll put it in the
Yeah.
show notes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything you want to promote of yours, that I'll put it down below
Okay.
for
That's
people. Um, but yeah, well, that helps. I'll maybe I'll bug Blue for an endorsement deal too. Just
Yeah, I know, right? Well, they're like I think that the I think that I don't know. Maybe they might.
Can't hurt to
Maybe
ask. I mean,
no.
um, especially uh, the way things are. Like, you know, uh,
Yeah.
so many people are going to try some kind of smaller personal venture. Might as well give it a shot and
Yeah, I
salvage
think
while you're doing
yeah.
it.
Right now, nowadays, it's like I was telling a student, you have to be good at so many different things if you want to be in music. It's not just playing your instrument and practicing.
Yeah.
Like those days are gone. You are expected to do so much more.
Right.
Market yourself, record yourself,
Yeah.
video. You have to produce new things. You have to be able to compose, create art. You can't just
Yeah. It's
play other people's. It's so weird. It's like I
much
was.
broader skill set now. I remember. I think I started seeing it more the tail end of master's work, like
Mhm.
'06 to '08. People started talking more and more about music business and marketing and like knowing more of that stuff on your own. And
Yep.
then like what was it? 2012, I did a performer certificate around here at Northern Illinois,
Hmm.
and they had started like a music business program. I
Mm.
was one of the initial students there, just talking about things like this, like starting YouTube's, like making yourself a website, like the kind of stuff that if you're like a hobbyist, just like knitting scarves, you kind of know that stuff already, to like make an eBay or an Etsy account and like just start, like the ways you start marketing. But it's
Right.
kind of surprised me like how many people never thought of like people who were in performance never thought to cross thinking into the world of business quite as much. And
Yeah, there's some like there I think there's some weird maybe stigma behind it. It's like you have to push your business, right? You have to promote your business. You have to promote yourself as a brand. But like in music, it's always been a little bit, I don't know, people don't talk about it.
yeah, I don't know if there's
Like
like a sense of artistic integrity or something like that, or just being used to the older styles of making a living
mhm.
in music. But I mean, nowadays it's like I see these incredibly capable, like newer generation of musicians who just, you don't win a job immediately, and it's like, okay, I guess I'll drive for Lyft or Uber forever, or just quit right away.
Mhm.
I mean, you have to learn, you have to learn new skill sets, but like, is that too high a price to pay in order to craft a career that you want in the field
Right.
of music? Like, and, I can't say that for everyone, like what their threshold is, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it's their life and their choice. But I
Yeah.
for me, I see this, even with the circumstances, I see all this as a potential opportunity.
Hmm.
I feel like it, if you're looking at things too negatively, what are you going to accomplish?
Right. Right.
So
Yep. Yeah, you have to I think that's one thing. It's easy to kind of, especially right now, it's easy to just kind of get in your little cocoon and hang out. I think that yeah, it's something that everybody has to. I know I have to work at it. I'm kind of bad at. I know that I'm bad at uh, like doing the whole self promotion thing. I'm not good at that. Like I
yeah,
just
I
that's
mean,
not really in my DNA or something.
and you have to decide. I think that's connected to the goals you want to accomplish too. Like if I want to be like an international superstar, it's going to require a different type of work than if I just want to reach like, this county and the next county to fill up my clarinet studio. You know,
Right.
I don't
Hmm.
I don't need I don't need to start learning Chinese or Spanish or like any of the other major world languages if my outreach is only going to be like, 5 miles away. So I
Hmm.
guess it just depends what you want to do. Um, but yeah, certainly not to just sit idle and wait, only wait and hope for better times. Like this could be
Yeah.
this could be a great time for thinking and planning and creating, even even with the limitations.
Yeah,
So
especially since there's a lot of time off, and you can be obviously you can practice your instrument. I mean, like
yeah,
now, but
yeah,
it's I mean, practicing is like an investment in and of itself. So, although I've had I did take some time off. I think I mentioned this earlier. I took some time off when all this started happening. I did take a little bit of chunk of time where I just didn't. I let myself recover.
right.
I like gave myself the mental space to kind of reacclimate to what exactly was happening. Um, because it is hard actually. It's like it's weird. It's like I think everybody is like you were doing something, for a while and it was kind of going the way it was going, and then all of a sudden it just stopped. And that's you're really there's some trauma associated with that. You have to give yourself space to deal with that trauma.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Hearing you say it, like, I don't know how many people are actually thinking of it in terms of suffering a trauma.
Yeah.
It's just maybe people. I know I've perceived it as an inconvenience, for certain things, like, oh, grocery stores out of toilet paper again, or whatever.
Well, for me, it was a real existential kind of like identity crisis, because you worry. It's like, oh, I've been making my living doing this one, doing this one thing, or not one thing, but doing a certain set of things,
Right.
and now, like, I think this past year, I mean, this past season from September to May, I had like something like 65 concerts on my calendar, on my performance schedule. And it just stopped in March. It was like somebody turned a light off. And like I had all this stuff, and I remember all the cancellation emails coming in. And every day it was like, we're canceling, we're canceling. And it was just like, the rest of the season is canceled. Like, and there's just concerts. And luckily I had made it through the bulk of my performing, and I only had a few weeks left of performing in April and May, and then it was going to stop. But it was like thrust into this, you know, who knows how long. And everybody was out full that things would start coming around, like we would get through it, and then things would start coming back in the fall, and they kind of did, but everything feels like it's limping along. So for
Yeah.
me, it was very much an identity. This like, what am I doing with myself now? I've been doing this one thing for so long, and now all of a sudden I don't have that thing. And I'm trying to figure out like, what am I doing? I was still doing some teaching, but my real passion is performing,
Mm.
playing the instrument. And I mean, I like teaching. Don't get me wrong. That's not. I don't read that the wrong way. That's
Right.
just a. I do, and I enjoy fixing instruments too. And that's been fine. That's actually a big saving point. But the performing is like kind of for me. It was like, well, now I'm left with all the things that kind of pay the bills. But the thing that I really love to do is kind of just gone
Yeah.
for right
Yeah.
now.
The yeah, those things that really satisfy your soul to do, like that hit me
Yeah,
the same way when my own playing went away. Like, that was something that I needed in my life, let alone, like, enjoyed, and all the other stuff that you get out of it. But it's
hmm
like, yeah, you're that's part of you. uh
right, exactly. And so
how do
your
you
identity is tied up in that. And now, what is your identity? It's well, you have to kind of reframe that. You have to kind of figure that part out. That's the difficult part, because there's also there's a lot of fear there too, because well, what if it doesn't come back? Well, like, what if this thing keeps going for 2 years, 3 years? You know what I mean?
right?
And so there was always that fear too. That what if this thing is just it's going to be here forever? We're never going to be able to have concerts again.
Well,
And but luckily, I think we're maybe on the upswing.
yeah. I mean, I think what we said earlier, like,
Hmm.
how you look at it, and being careful to not get trapped in a negative
Yeah.
like a negative
Hmm.
loop about it.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, a lot of the best innovations through history have come through like kind of mind bending pressure. Like I certainly have expectations of great things coming out of even this. The what the arts world is going to do in response, and it's already starting. Like I see a lot of people sending out feelers, making certain attempts at different projects. Just
Hmm.
it's going to evolve, and it's going like whatever our conditions are. Like we will come out on the other side with some great and new things. Whatever
Hmm.
happens to the traditional stuff, like I'm sure we'll come back to that at some point, but
Yeah.
the new, the innovative, that's going to be exciting to see. um
Yeah. Also, I think another thing that's going to happen, or at least is that people are going to be so tired of looking at computer screens
yeah.
that they're going to want to see live art.
Right. Going
It's going to be
I'm
like a
already
cur.
targeting now.
I know it's going to be a curiosity. It's going to be like, whoa, what is this live art I haven't seen
Yeah,
in a
it's
year and a half? I'm
another
going to go to an
human
art
being in the
gallery.
I don't yeah I
I
you know what
know.
the I know over the years now I've grown a little distant from that kind of experience, like going. Like
Hmm.
I've always enjoyed travel and like exploring new places, but with everything online, you start to like things shifted a little bit. Yeah, maybe this is the pressure we need to go back the other direction into experiential things.
Like
So
live life like outside the computer screen.
yeah,
What? Like go outside, go on a hike.
right.
What? Or like I don't know, go to a concert or see. Don't just watch stuff on the internet.
Yeah, want to eat a hot dog and just breathe on people. I,
That's
I
that's the best. Eat a hot dog and breathe on people.
right.
That's all I want to do.
Um, oh man, yeah, but yeah, it's frightening but exciting, and I'm confident we'll come out on the other side with some amazing stuff we haven't even conceived of yet. Um,
Hmm.
we're gonna have to, because what's the alternative?
Right, that's true. That's true. Actually, somebody told me one time. They said it was a long time ago. They said this was a person, and he was saying he was a director of a school of music. That I was. He's like, people are going to keep always. They're always going to find a way to make music.
Mm,
People are always going. They always have. It's not going to stop. People are going to figure out how to keep making music.
yeah,
It's just something that we've always done as a species, and we're probably gonna, as long as we're still here, we're gonna keep doing it. So
nice. Yeah, there's a positive positive outlook on it.
yeah,
Um, oh man, so yeah, we've been all over the map. It's been a good chat. All the what is it, 5 or 6 times we've tried to do this
yeah,
for the one
I know.
episode.
It's okay though. It's the internet
Yeah,
and editing.
yes. Time is what I command it to be. I was.
Yes.
Um. So, what else do you do? I mean, we've been pretty clarinet heavy this whole time. Is there anything else you're into?
I know. I'm kind of an amateur artist painter.
Okay.
I do some amateur. I do very very amateurish paintings. Kind of contemporary. I do that, and I'm also a runner.
Okay.
Kind of a medium distance. I don't call myself a long distance runner. I kind of run those medium distances, like 3 to 5 miles.
Okay.
Whenever I go out and run, I'm probably
You're,
actually after we finish up here, I'm probably going to go for a run. Actually,
so you're not like a
I
marathoner.
started. I would like to be. I would like to run a marathon at some point in my life, but the time it. I do run about. I try to run between about 8 and 12 miles a week. I started running in 2018, like really legitimately running, and not that I know people who run a lot more than me, but I ran about 400 miles last year, and I'm up to about
Yeah.
300 miles this year. I'm probably not going to reach the 400 miles that I did last year, um, just because I haven't run nearly as much and been as nearly as consistent. I do that. That actually has been transformative.
Oh,
Um, I think that that is the best thing I've ever done for myself,
just running.
besides learn how to be an artist. Yeah, I think running. Um, so I do that. Um, I play board games. I enjoy board games. Catan. Um, I have yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for the various nerdery things.
Do D and
Um,
D and that kind of stuff.
I do. I play D&D. Or I had a group that I played when I lived in New York. I had a group that I actually DM'd for. I did that pretty regularly. It's hard to find groups like to play with
Yeah.
right now. So I mean, I had a group we were doing it like at the beginning of the pandemic. We were playing online, but it's hard to play online. It's not quite the same.
I had another friend suggest that to me that I get into it. I'm not sure what it is about the way people think that gets people interested in that. I mean, I and I'm aware of that scene, but I don't really understand what it is or how it's done.
It's just that all role playing games are they're cooperative storytelling. That's all it is.
Maybe
Uh,
maybe that's why it was suggested to me. That
exactly. This is exactly what it is. It's just cooperative storytelling with like a game mechanic that
hmm.
you follow, like some sort of underlying game rule set that governs the way the story unfolds. And so usually it's based around chance. So
Oh
I
yeah,
played,
the
yeah, a
little
little, yeah,
game.
dice.
Yeah.
And so you play that. That's kind of that was a hobby. It's always been a hobby of mine. And then I'm kind of into just a lot of different things. I don't know, like random, kind of an armchair. I like to read about economy, like read economists. I don't know.
Yeah. That's I mean, yeah, I would be a little concerned with people who just like they do nothing else but clarinet.
No,
Like,
yeah, I don't know. I can't. I have too many interests.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're going to be in the arts, you have to be some level of well-rounded human being,
Hmm.
you know. So that's why I'm always interested to hear that kind of stuff with guests. Like, what's what's the rest of your humanity like? You know.
Yeah, actually, yeah, and that's actually really important. Like doing other things, I think. But I really you do martial arts, right?
Mhm.
You're a martial. Yeah, I have a friend who's studying Wing Chun,
Yeah.
and
You, are they in your immediate area? You might. Oh, well, I mean, there's a physical contact element, but if when this timing and circumstances are right, you might try playing around with that. I mean, there's a lot of interesting like rhythm and technique things that you might
Mhm.
find very similar to your music learning
Yeah,
experience. Um,
yeah. I
there
also I also play some golf.
you
I'm a
go.
really really bad golfer. And by bad, I mean like, not like I can go on the golf course and like play golf and it's not super embarrassing, but I'm not a, I don't have a great, I have fun when I play golf. I can play well enough to have fun.
That's that's an important level. I the last time I tried playing golf, I almost hit somebody on the green behind me.
Oh, that's not good. You don't want the
It's
ball to go
I
the other way.
yeah, I still don't know how that happened, but I whiffed it and it just went immediately backward, almost hit somebody in the head.
Yeah,
Uh,
golf is yeah, that's a game that's the ball doesn't move. You know that, right? It's on the ground. You just hit it. Like I don't know why that's so hard, but the ball doesn't move. It's not like baseball where you're hitting a moving ball.
yeah, yeah. Oh man. Um, Yeah, maybe one day I'll take a lesson and learn how to actually make it move forward.
It's crazy. It's really wild. Like I've had conversations with people about golf, and it's like I don't know why it's so hard. The ball is just right there. All you have to do is walk up to it and hit it. And yet, that simple act is really, really difficult. Um, yeah.
But I mean, that seems like it's another activity that bears a lot of potential lessons across fields. Like,
Yeah, it does. Well, I mean, it's like golf is totally a mental game. So is music. Music is all in your head. It's well, at least the actualization of music, like making the music, it's all up. It's all up in your head. And same with
okay,
golf. Golf is yeah.
occasionally yelling "four" at people.
Right.
Oh man, I think the worst concert I ever played. Well, not me personally. Like the worst concert experience I've ever been in. Let me say it that way. Um, this poor DMA, like she was actually faculty like at the time,
Hmm.
and so every so often you're obliged to do your faculty concert.
Hmm.
Whatever I don't even remember the specific concerto she played, but he was just like not playing it right at all, and like we had half the time we had no idea where she was. At one point the conductor just like he leans over the podium and yells or not or like loudly whispers H, like just so we know where we're supposed to be and like hopefully finish together. um that semester did not end well for her, but it gave me a lot of good memory. um like well, I mean, I can make my mistakes every so often, but it will never be as if I work hard enough and think clearly enough, it will never be as bad as having to yell out
Right.
the rehearsal number in concert.
Hmm.
Oh, but yeah, yeah. I don't know why I thought of golf. Just
Yeah.
yelling at people and missing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Oh God. Let's see. Are you enjoying any books or shows right now that
I've been watching Designated Survivor. Do you know the show?
no, I'm not. I
It
feel
was
like I've
a
heard
show.
that
I don't know.
before, but
It's got Kiefer Sutherland. You know the guy who was on 24.
mm-hmm.
Basically, it's a political intrigue show.
Okay.
It's quite good. Netflix. It only got 2 seasons in network, and then Netflix picked it up for a third season. And so I'm in the third season. It's really good. I've been watching a few episodes every night at dinner or something, and it's like basically like there's an attack on DC, and then this person is thrust into the presidency, and I don't want to like get
Spoil it or
political,
whatever.
but also like the portrayal of this person is it's a very feel good portrayal of like somebody trying to actually do good in the White House or be do some and a very
That's a
honorable
little sad.
person.
That's a little sad that has to be a fantasy for people, like
Yeah, I know, right? It's
somebody in
hard.
power who wants to do good.
I know it's hard. It's like it's a little bit, but yeah, it's a very positive outlook on politics, that show.
Well, at least you're getting it somewhere.
Right, I know. I know. I know. It's pretty
Uh,
crazy.
but let's see. Uh, I'll dig a little deeper. Is there anything that you used to believe that you don't believe anymore?
Hmm.
It could be about clarinet or just life. It doesn't have to be. It can be as juicy or not as
Ah,
you want it to be.
okay. There's something I used to have a very finite idea of what success meant, and now I'm starting to learn that success is really whatever you define it as.
Yeah.
The individual. If you think that you're successful, you're successful. Uh, doesn't matter what anybody else says. Because I had a very narrow, when I was younger, I had a very narrow definition of what being successful meant to me. And I found it to be very difficult. Like, my idea of success was so narrow. It was like, get a job in an orchestra and be a full time clarinet player.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And that is not one, it's not realistic for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's not realistic for, I mean, but that's so far off. And it's it can be a very, kind of toxic way of viewing things. They have a very narrow definition of what success means.
Yeah.
So I think success is basically like, if you're happy with what you're doing and you're satisfied, then you're successful. If you want something to be better, then figure out how to make it better,
Right.
right? And it doesn't really matter how you do that. There are so many ways there's so many ways to accomplish that. Um, yeah, but the real trick is figuring out what you really want, or what a person
Yeah.
really wants.
You got to know yourself.
Yeah, and that's something that comes with. So for me, that's what's changed for me over the past maybe 5 years. It's really been a recent revelation to me that success is what I define it as, not what other people tell me it is.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring it up because that's come up on prior episodes too.
Hmm.
People's concept of success. And yeah, certainly like I fell prey to that at one point too. Like if I'm not the next Chicago Symphony principal, like, what am I going to do with my life? And it's like, well, there's only the one spot and like thousands and thousands of more than qualified players,
Yeah.
you know, like all over the world. And even if if I were put in that spot right now, like just magically put in that spot, would that really suit me? Like all things considered, other than like whether I could even play to that level or not. Like, does that suit me as a person? Like I
Yeah,
at this
it's
point I don't
difficult.
think it does. Like,
No, I mean, same here. It's like you think about it, and to me, it sounds overwhelming. It sounds like an overwhelming job. I mean, you get to play with the best people, like that type of job, you get to play with the best people in the world, but it's got to be, I don't know, it's got to be very high. It's a very high pressure, and if you can exist like that, that's great. But I don't know if I could at this point. I don't know if I'd want to.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. Like I do think about it. It's like, but actually, the older I get, the more I realize that it's more about, like, happiness isn't about getting things or getting positions. Um, that's just not what it's about.
right,
Like happiness is more of a state of being than an actual. You don't attain, you can start literally being happy like right now. That's like, I mean, maybe some people it's harder. I mean, I've gone through my ups and downs in life. I've
yeah,
definitely had some big downs and some lots of peaks and lots of valleys, but I think I've settled into a kind of a way of being that is good. And it has to do with my desire, my six like the my approach to success.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's an important lesson. I hope people pick up on because and like I said, it's not the first time the audience has heard that from
Hmm.
a number of other you know successful professionals. So
Yeah.
and I have my share of needing to repeat it for myself too. Uh,
Yeah, I have to remind myself constantly. I think once I realized this a few years back, I was like, I don't. But then you start to slip in. It's weird. These old patterns, these old thinking patterns come back, and then you have to remind yourself, like, no, it's fine. Like it's not bad.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's the habit. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, the concept was taught to me from like just practicing clarinet. Like, if you have a bad habit, you have to work extra hard
Yes.
to make the good habit. And if you're not thinking, that old habit creeps back.
Hmm.
Like doing the pointing to the moon when I'm doing the throat tones. Like,
Yeah.
no, that's elementary school, Frank. I shouldn't do that anymore. Or the the voyaging pinkies or
Oh yeah,
whatever.
flyaway fingers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like yeah. I mean, any habit certainly on clarinet, but then yeah, your own patterns of behavior and thought. Like we need we need the reps to make a new reality.
Hmm.
Um, but that's good. That's important. Um, let's see. How do you hope you'll change in the future as a person?
Hmm.
The hard hitting stuff. I mean,
Well, in the future, I would want to be more content with who I am, and what I'm, you know, and my identity, whatever that is. You know, yeah, just I think being more comfortable with myself as I go forward. I think that's really and more, yeah, not so. I used to be really really hard on myself when I would like when I would perform or when I would practice or I think it leads to some really like it can lead to really toxic thinking, like the self criticism, like being
mm,
hyper self critical. You know, it's like really
yeah,
being a little bit more at ease. Music tends to do that to people too.
yeah,
It
because
tends to make you. It brings out the perfectionist in everybody. It can, which is not healthy.
mm,
So having a more healthy, going forward, having just a more healthy mental balance.
yeah. Man, I've seen that do terrible things to people physically, like ulcers and things. You get real spun up about that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, actually, and you're a better musician the more relaxed you are. So, like, if you want to be, you know what I mean? It's like the more relaxed and the more at ease you are, and the more comfortable, the less you, the actually the better you perform. So that's kind of me going forward, I think.
yeah. Um, where are you right now again?
Where do I live? Like
Yeah,
physically? I actually I live in Greenville, South Carolina.
you live in Greenville. Okay.
Yeah, I just moved back. It's my hometown actually. My parents still live here. I was living in North Carolina in Hendersonville, just right across
Yeah.
the state line, for like the last 3 years, and then I moved back to Greenville just last July.
I I have to ask, is Henry Smokehouse still around?
It is. It
Okay.
is still there,
I've
and it is
eaten
still
many a
excellent.
sandwich over there, many a sandwich,
Yes.
trying to escape the university I was attending there at the time.
Well,
Um,
it's right. It's just right down the street, right?
yeah,
Yeah, you're just right down the street.
yeah,
Yeah. I actually
man.
I live over next to like 5 minutes from Furman.
Okay, yeah.
So I live kind of near the mountains, near Paris, actually right next to Paris Mountain.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and
Well,
so I just
if you're into running, that's probably a fun place. You get some terrain to run around on.
but well, also the Swamp Rabbit Trail. I don't know if you remember, they weren't building it. The Swamp Rabbit Trail is like this 26-mile trail that goes from Travelers Rest
Oh
all the way
wow.
through downtown Greenville. And so I live right on the Swamp Rabbit Trail. So when I run, I could literally marathon right now. I could go down to the trail and I could run a marathon.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think I made it out there. Was probably too concerned about the university spies trying to hunt me down to make sure I wasn't watching a movie that wasn't rated G or something. Uh,
Oh,
that's
yeah, you gotta.
a whole other episode of
Yeah,
experiences. But yeah, Henry's Smokehouse was a source of great joy and many pounds of extra body weight for me. Uh,
yeah, that place is good.
so
Yeah.
I mean the little shack, like have they built it out or anything? Or is it just still just kind of like
No, yeah, just that same old, same old. I mean, well, Henry's has been here since I was a kid. I was born here. I lived here until 2000, and I moved away. So I moved back. It's been 20 years since I lived here. Um, but yeah, it's not the same town that I left.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. Like, I left there. Was it December '03? Yeah, I've been back occasionally for weddings or something like that. But yeah, they really did up the town uh, over the last 20 years or so.
It's really beautiful, and the downtown is a really remarkable. It's a remarkable downtown. It's really nice to go down there, and also the peace centers are really. I get to play quite a bit with the Greenville Symphony, and they just that Peace Center is a great place to play. I mean, I've been playing with them since off and on. Like I've been a sub in the orchestra since like 2010, but I lived in Augusta at the time,
Yeah,
and
just
so I would drive up. It's just 2.5 hours. Um, but like I'm hoping that like I'll get to sub more. I mean, I used to sub like maybe 4 or 5 times a season, and then but now I live here, so I'm hoping like I can just like I live 10 minutes from downtown, so I can just pop
yeah,
down and play a concert rehearsal and then come back.
there you go.
Yeah.
Uh, oh yeah. Now I'm gonna be thinking of those sandwiches for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, is there anything I didn't ask you yet that I should have
I don't. I mean, I don't know.
over the course of
I think that.
several days that we've?
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, yeah. No, this is when I put
It's
this together.
trying yeah, the internet. It's. I don't know why. It's just it doesn't want to. I'm sure it's a hardware thing, but
It's all
anyway,
those Bob Jones spies. They know you're talking to me, and
that's what it is. Yeah, they're shutting down the network.
I'm fun tidbit. I'm officially blacklisted from there
Oh, really? That's
because what is it, 2000 2010 or so? I posted a picture of me on Facebook. Um, the just like juvenile fun, and then
hmm
I received a letter in the mail about my grievous sexual sin, and I was told that I'm not allowed to set foot on campus until I officially repent at the dean's offices.
nice. Well,
Um, so I have yet to make that appointment.
well, they'll probably forget at some point. You could probably show them. They wouldn't remember.
I've thought about tempting fate, like just show up one day. I don't know what I'd even go see there. I've had plenty of time to
Oh yeah.
but maybe on my next trip to Henry's, I'll drive by campus and slowly look out the window at the security shack. But anyways, um, 2020 has been weird. But what what are you working on? Where can people find you? And anything else you want to flash promo?
If
Call it.
they want to get their clarinets worked on, I'm fixing clarinets. And basically they can find me at my website, taylormasseyclarinetist.com.
All
Um,
all one.
yeah, all one word. And if they want to listen to, yeah, if they, I'll send you the CD that I mentioned that my colleague. It's a pretty good CD actually,
Yeah.
and that's good recording. And basically that's it. I mean, I don't really have anything to. I'm not like I have a website.
Well,
If they want to contact me, I'm there.
works for me. Yeah, yeah. I'll put it all in the show notes for you. But uh, Taylor, thank you for taking the time over the course of however many days.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks
and
for having me. It's great
and
seeing you again.
yeah, best of luck. I know you know I know the good things will come out despite these
Yeah.
circumstances. So
I'm not worried. We're gonna make it through this, and it's gonna be fine. One way or another, it's gonna be fine, and we're gonna keep going. So people are gonna keep making art. I
yeah,
know that I'm not gonna stop.
yeah.
So
Me neither. Force my uh, force my terrifying creations onto the world at large.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will enjoy it.
Yeah,
But
actually, I was on a run. I had this idea. I was like, maybe I should just like learn how to compose and make my own like mixed multimedia art. Like maybe that's a thing. Like I have ideas on runs, right? That's what I do. When I run, I get ideas. That was my most recent idea is to just start making multimedia art.
yeah, hey,
So,
the yeah, put it out there. I mean, the worst anyone could say to you is no, right?
or like or whatever, I don't even care. Like if they look at it and they don't like it, then they don't have to look at it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're in a worldwide market, so somebody somewhere will
Yeah.
will like it enough. But yeah, and whenever you roll that out, send me the link and I'll put
Oh
it
yeah.
in the show too. You
Yeah,
know,
no. It's like, so yeah, I was thinking, yeah, that's probably the next thing I'm gonna do is try to learn how to. I have all the equipment, incorporate the clarinet, make some time lapse videos of something. I don't
yeah. Well, best of luck with that,
know.
and everything else. Hopefully, getting back to soon. So
Yeah. Thanks, Frank.
yeah. How do I do
And
this? Okay. Take care.
all right.
Thanks.
You too. Bye.